Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
Can you back up, boss? Appreciate it.
Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster? No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home? Madam Mayor, let me ask you just again, have you anything to say to the citizens today as you return?
No. Ma'am, hold on one second.
Madam Mayor, just a few words for the citizens today as you return to deal with the catastrophe.
Can you take this down?
Have you seen anything like that before?
Let me just explain that, because this reporter must have been on the flight with her. That's the Bradley International Terminal. She's coming in from overseas. He's obviously a Brit working for Sky News. He pins her. She goes catatonic. She can't even respond. Instead of just simply saying, Robert, welcome to Robert, by the way. Instead of simply saying, I'm going to have a press conference in an hour, I'll deal with all these questions. Any one of a massive amount of answers could have come out of her mouth. But she's not a politician. She's an ideological Marxist who loved Fidel Castro so much she visited the island of Cuba over 50 times and was part of a brigade that went down there from the United States during the 70s and into the 80s. This is not a politician. Any politician could have simply blown that off. She froze. She went catatonic. She could have said a million things to this guy, and she said nothing, Robert.
You know, I've only seen somebody have that special access to exit their own way without having to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Once, and it was in Kiev.
Yeah.
So years ago, I was flying from Russia back to, I think, Budapest, maybe Paris, and there was a layover in Kiev, and I was on the Russian airline Aeroflot, and I was in their version of first class, and and I was next to who was apparently a big oligarch. I didn't know it, but so the plane stopped. The plane lands, doesn't go all the way up to where you would walk off into the terminal. It stops first. He stands up, walks on. They stop. He gets off, and they have a special trip to meet him, so that he doesn't have to go through Ukrainian customs. It was like he was never there. It was like, oh man, I got to get to oligarch status. I want to be able to land like that. Years later, I would land like that in Havana, Cuba, in a special private airline, and I had a deputy general there waiting to meet me. I was checking out what happens if you travel to Europe through Cuba. Does the U.S. government get notified? I won't explain why I was necessarily working on that work trip, but it was. But that was the closest. By the way, Cuba doesn't report. It's a convenient way to get out of the country. If you need to get to Europe and not be tracked to the U.S., take a boat to Cuba, hop a plane from Cuba to wherever, and the U.S. won't know until after you've landed.
You know who tried that one? John McAfee. Except Cuba did turn him into the CIA, he was telling me.
But I try to tell his people, don't go to Spain. I mean, I'm advocating for Roger Ver, Bitcoin Jesus, because I find his political persecution horrendous and the motivation behind trying to make crazy tax law through criminal cases terrifying. But he was another one. I mean, he is a Bitcoin Jesus that went through Spain. I had a client that came back through New York because we had done such a good job of, let's say, hypothetically speaking, there was an Interpol red warrant on him, and they hadn't been able to track him for 2 years, even though he was in Europe the whole time. There's ways in which you can manage that situation.
I think they do Spain because it's cheap, though. And McAfee had a dual passport with the U.S. and England. So a lot of England spends a lot of time in Spain because they can vacation there and do everything on the cheap. So I'm wondering if culturally that's why he went there. It's just kind of being
hold on for a second, spook adjacent people. Let's get back to Karen Bass and the situation that we're exploring here in Los Angeles. Robert and I have both escaped death. Robert physical. Mine was kind of physical too. The situation is there are arsonists running loose in Los Angeles. A couple of them have been arrested already. There are the scooter looters that are going around in packs of 100 on electric scooters now. Some of them getting away with merchandise on the scooters. The new guest of the show, Nate Hochman, is apparently vowing to incarcerate them. About 30 have been arrested so far. But the arsonists keep popping up, and that's what I wanted to address, the situation with the arson. She and her ilk, that being Karen Bass, refuse to acknowledge anything. They refuse to acknowledge the empty reservoir. Newsom is now calling for a special investigation into a reservoir that he damn well knew 114 million gallon reservoir was empty. That's why the little smaller reservoir in Pacific Palisades was quickly drained by the fire department when they showed up at the fire hydrants. This has nothing to do with the fire hydrants that have been stolen in downtown LA. I've got a lot of questions. So I wanted to connect everything in this show geographically, at least so people, Robert and I are kind of LA centric. We kind of know the lay of the land. Eric probably doesn't. The positioning between Malibu and Pacific Palisades in relation to Altadena, and then the fourth fire, which was by me in the Griffith Park Hills by the famous Hollywood sign. That particular sign and that particular fire, we have had homeless arsonists setting fires there for years. We had a major fire in there, and that was from a Korean golfer who flicked his cigarette into the bushes. That was about 15 years ago, where the whole park went up in flames on the east side. But these are arsonists who are homeless, not professional arsonists. Let me just differentiate between the two. These are just wacky homeless people starting fires. And in fact, even way before this, the LA Fire Department, which has had their budget severely cut by Karen Bass, by the way, and she's now in a feud between one of the three, and there are three lesbian hierarchy chiefs, all named Kristen, on the LA Fire Department now, and they're in a verbal war with Karen Bass about the cutting of the budget. And they're kind of sticking to their guns, Robert and Eric, about this budgetary letter that's been published and printed and shown on numerous outlets. The letter kind of is a nail in the coffin of Karen Bass, hopefully. But nevertheless, the empty reservoir was something that Newsom was well aware of at the time of the fires. Karen Bass going to Ghana, and let me just reiterate why she went to Ghana. She went to Ghana for the second inauguration of their Idi Amin. The Ghanaian corrupt dictator skipped a term. They got him out of there for 4 years. He now won the election again under a cloud. She went to Ghana to celebrate his second inauguration. As the mayor of Los Angeles, Robert, this is her ideological, there's the empty reservoir. A lot of it is because of the smelt fish that Newsom has apparently fallen in love with, this little fish that he's been trying to save for years, and has diverted the water away from Southern California. This is like Chinatown, Robert. It's all about the water. It's like, as they said in Chinatown, it's about the water, and that battle continues.
No doubt about it. I mean, I lived in Malibu for more than a decade. It initially looked like the house that I lived in for a long time got burned down. It appears it somehow survived, at least so far. And the reason is it was a Mormon owner who built it. His wife's favorite house was in Pasadena. This was his favorite house. He was a big surfer. and he let me lease it for a long time. We got along really well. He had built the house so that it had this natural foaming, so that it would have this like huge foam encase around the house in case of fire.
Wow.
And it looks like it was one of the few that had that. And he had to survive it took him 5 years to build it because Malibu is obsessed with keeping people out. So, I mean, they even kept Edge out of the U2. He'd bought 4 properties, and they're like, no, you're not building those. They have these planners and developers that help you do stuff. It's called people you have to bribe in order to get stuff done in Malibu. A lot of the Malibu homes were built in the 60s and 70s. First homes I built in were all wood. Those are all gone. So
I mean, there's no way they will ever rebuild because the code was different back then. These homes cost $88,000 back then. They're now worth $8.8 million. Here's the dictator of Ghana. This is where she had to go. I think that's a picture of her on the right with that wig on, if I'm not mistaken. She had to go to this because she's the mayor of Los Angeles. I mean, it's so preposterously insane. Nobody even knew she was gone until she was gone. She's running her own foreign policy, Robert. And this goes back to her congressional days, obviously.
The other thing to me relating to this, I mean, like I told people, I moved out because California was clearly going crazy. I told all my clients the politics of this is going to get really bad. You won't be able to practice your businesses the way you want to if you have any political independence. You're going to have, and most of them got out. There are a few that can't, because they're service-based industries that require their clientele are there in California. There were some others that gambled on surviving, and they ended up getting hit and got out of Dodge belatedly. But one of the inspiration I'll never forget, I was in Malibu, the Malibu bookstore, and one of the popular books was by these lefty writers from LA. That the title of the book was "Burn Malibu Burn."
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a big seller. Yeah.
What people don't realize, like, why is Bass not concerned? Because a lot of her constituency, her core ideological constituency, wanted this to happen.
Robert, they didn't want to drop seawater on the vegetation.
Exactly.
With the scooper planes.
This is diversity, equity, and inclusion in action.
That
let Malibu burn.
Yep.
Let the poor people steal whatever they can steal. Let gangs steal whatever they can steal. And it's redistribution in action, like 1917 Moscow.
Well, let me add on another layer, because they believe that their homes are built on the bodies of dead Indians.
Yes, exactly.
I
mean, I remember reading that. I was like, there's no way. The only reason I didn't buy in Malibu, thank God, was I was at, this is like multiple layers of irony. So a couple of high-ranking executives for Harvey Weinstein were from the South, and they invited me over to their going away party for the Kentucky Derby. And a bunch of high-end people there. And I remember asking them, like, what I was like, I would think working for Weinstein, you got Quentin Tarantino, you got all these cool people. I mean, isn't that cool? And they're like, no, not cool. We're getting the hell out of here. We're moving to, and I didn't know until later. I'd heard the rumors, but they wouldn't tell me what. They would just say, not good. This whole town sucks. We got to get out. And they were really talented. And I was there, and a Federal Reserve banker was there. One of the guys that works, and I was like, I'm thinking about buying a Malibu. And he was like, bad idea. He goes, this was 2005. He's like, the real estate, he goes, we're going to have an implosion in 2 to 3 years. And everybody at the Fed knows it. And he started going through all the numbers for me to look at. And I was like, holy moly.
Oh, wow.
He saved me a lot of money. But the other reason is when you have books like Burn Malibu Burn, that's the ideological mantra of many of the people coming to power in California and LA, California, that's not a place to be investing in real estate.
It goes back to City of Courts, Mike Davis's book, which covers the entire Los Angeles region with the same. Burn Malibu Burn is a miniature version of City of Courts, the famous Mike Davis book.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right.
And
I just want to get back. No, both of them.
I know. I was like, holy moly! I mean, investing in a place, and then all the insane insurance rules. They were telling insurers that that they would decide. And it was the government's choice that forced insurers out of the Palisades last year. So it does make you wonder whether somebody's afoot somewhere else. But to let people know out there, ideologically, this is what the left wanted. They want the Palisades to burn. They want Beverly Hills to be looted. They want all of Western LA to be looted. This is who
absolutely. I mean, they flew around with drones, and we've been talking about this for a year now in LA, canceling people's homeowners insurance. through Malibu, through Pacific Palisades, commenting on the structure of your roofs. And what they did was they gave you 6 months or 3 months to fix your roof after flying these drones around. This has been an issue for 6 months now in Malibu and LA. And then they canceled everybody's homeowners insurance policy. So most of these people do not have insurance. And those homes, forget about it because they're too high priced to get insurance. But nevertheless, the people in Altadena and working class people who had normal homes, those people are totally screwed. Because if I may add, there's a FAIR program in California out of Sacramento that's bankrupt. They've given out all this money, and there's no more money left in that pool anymore.
I mean, it's amazing. In the state, voters have voted repeatedly for bonds and other things to have sufficient funds and sufficient resources available. They've just diverted it to their pet projects.
Yes.
It's what they do all the time.
In fact, the entire story, if you were to sum up this entire story, is all of this money has been diverted to their pet projects, which involves illegal aliens and the homeless. Okay, now the people who are homeless now, working class people, they were told, and I'll just give you this because I'm all about pragmatic explanations, boots on the ground crap. The people who are homeless who are now at the Civic Center in Pasadena were told to go to the Willard Hotel. They can't go to the Willard Hotel because the Willard Hotel is filled with homeless. Every hotel controlled by Los Angeles city government is filled with homeless and illegal aliens. Now they are part of the homeless industrial complex. These people who have jobs, have families, have kids, had homes 2 minutes ago, are now just another number in the LA City Marxist programs. And they're going to have to deal with that on a waiting list because all those hotels are filled. They're going to be in that Civic Center in Pasadena for a long time, Robert.
And I got like a decade of history that just went up in smoke. I mean, I used to hang out at Moon Shadows. I used to hang out at Duke's. Duke's had that little like barefoot beach where you get key lime margaritas, and the way the water would crash in against it, it would look blue-green like the key lime margaritas.
Yeah, Moon Shadows is gone. Gladstone's is gone. But the funny thing about Moon Shadows is this was a place where in the 80s, in the late 80s, Bruce Jenner would run through at night in drag before he trans over to become a woman. Everybody knew at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock when it was closing time, they would just look up and they go, oh, look, it's Bruce Jenner again. And he would just get dressed up as a woman and show up at closing time and walk through the place figuring he'd shock everyone. And the second celebrity, of course, is, Mel Gibson, who famously went crazy after Moon Shadows, Robert.
Now, I wonder if Malibu Beach Inn and those like places owned by Geffen and the Oracle guy that owns the Nobu place that was moved to the beach. I wonder if those might have survived.
Well, I don't know. The Malibu Beach Inn is on the other side. So that became a drug rehab, those motel things. A friend of mine bought that and turned it in.
Really? Bought it because originally the story was that Geffen bought it for his various boy toys. But it was the only hotel on the beach in Malibu. I mean, which was, I always found weird. Like there's a Malibu Riviera Inn, which is my favorite misnamed inn. Mm-hmm. It is a complete shit hotel. I mean, it looks like a motel from 50 years ago. But they called it the Malibu Riviera Inn, so they get all kinds of people all excited, and then they get there and they're like, this is worse than a Motel 6.
By the way, I am, in case anybody's wondering, I am near the Nixon Western White House in San Clemente, broadcasting you.
You got down behind the OC border.
I got behind the OC border, but I'll tell you something. I waited till the last minute, and it was that. I'll just tell you a funny story because when the fire started behind the Hollywood sign, it spread quickly because they had no resources. And little fires in Griffith Park, they pounce on those every weekend, but there was nobody there. So the fire spread pretty close to, it's literally a quarter of a mile from my house. And, I walked down a few blocks to size it up at night and it was growing. It was growing. But somebody, and they won't admit who did this, called for a mass evacuation of Hollywood. This led to mass chaos and gridlock where none of the trucks could get through. They won't admit who did it. And it was rescinded at 7 a.m. I didn't leave at that time. The roads were completely packed. Hollywood Boulevard, Sunset Boulevard, everything coming in West Hollywood. It was something out of an apocalyptic movie, Robert.
And just brief for those that don't know, LA's road traffic was designed for 1950s, not modern era. That's why LA has some of the worst infrastructure from a highway road perspective. So it's very easy for it to get very crowded very quickly.
Which is exactly what happened. It blocked the fire trucks from actually going into the park at Rustic Canyon. I used to live right on Fuller, which led into the canyon, and I live further east now. But also, I live across the street from Griffith Park. So there's these fires all the time in there, and they put them out really quickly. They're really on it. But the resources were all out in Pacific Palisades, like 60 miles away. So the idea that a spark came all the way over to Hollywood is, of course, preposterous. Nate Hochman, to get back to Nate Hochman, who's been a guest of the show a couple of times, he has vowed to incarcerate these people come hell or high water, and gave a number of live press conferences. His sister's home burned to the ground. That was gone. So Hochman is taking this personally and has vowed to lock up anyone who's a looter or an arsonist. And they've gotten a couple of them, so we'll see what happens.
Isn't it the case, though, that like Hochman's sister and other people, everybody's thinking, oh, look, all the rich actors and whatnot are losing their places. Too bad. But there's a lot of people who bought in the 60s, 70s for their families, and they can never replace what they had at all. They're forever on their ass, and they're just normal working class people that happen to have.
I am envisioning a situation next week, and this is just my vision, and I just want to bounce it off you, where there's going to be a press conference in the rubble of Pacific Palisades. There's going to be 3 people at that press conference. One is going to be Rick Caruso, the developer. Number 2 is going to be Catherine Barger, the Republican head of the LA Board of Supervisors. And the third is going to be Donald Trump. This is going to happen. I got a funny feeling next week that Trump is going to fly right into the belly of the beast and give it to them.
Well, Trump talked about this on Rogan in his interview.
Oh, okay.
About the in his interview before any of this, he talked about the
he's gone.
The forest fire. All this is in Rogan.
But I think he's going to work with Rick Caruso to rebuild there. I think he's going to make this into a pet project.
It would be perfect for Trump. The other thing is, it's a perfect early case for Harmeet Dillon, who's coming in. She's from California, Northern California, from California, aware of the issues underlying this, what's been going on for years, the political manipulation behind this, that they deliberately set this up for this to happen. And it's a great opportunity to use the Civil Rights Division to expose the political motivations behind this this was criminal intent. This wasn't just negligence. This was criminal intent by high-ranking officials throughout the state that wanted to see this happen. And you know, it's hard for people to believe. But like I said, go back and pick up those books. Look at the popularity of those books. Look at who else was quoting those books. Understand the underlying ideology that Mark has been talking about, that we've been talking about. You understand that these people think like 1930s commies. They're not 1960s.
Well, not only that, it's more than that, because they are determined since COVID to create this utopian socialist state. People do not realize that you cannot have your gas by SoCal Gas or LADWP terminated any longer. They have secretly made a deal with these 2 utilities that they will pay any late fees and prevent anyone from being cut off for not paying their utility bills, Robert. And I have intentionally not paid because I want to see where this goes. And this
it's also part like the smart meter routine that they're trying to do. They're trying to, it's various control mechanisms for which they saw these high-end real estate areas as a hurdle. And this is what's, I remember being shocked when I just read Burn Malibu Burn. Imagine any popular text with policyholders which said we would like to see your community burnt to the ground. I mean,
I think the battle's going to be. I think the battle's going to be with the state, who is going to attempt to steal Pacific Palisades as land.
Oh, absolutely, they're going.
You know what I'm talking about.
It's going to be Hawaii all over again.
Yes,
I mean, they're going to be, and it looks like that at least at some level there was intentionality involved, not just ideological intentionality, but they knew what they were doing last year when they pulled away. It was why would you want, other than just being malicious, to take away people's insurance? They don't want them to be able to rebuild. They want other people to be able to go in and buy cheap. If you have insurance, that's a hurdle. You've got to negotiate with the insurance industry. They can pay you off. As a homeowner, you can rebuild. They don't want you to rebuild.
Their wet dream would be to build Section 8 housing all across Pacific Palisades and put the homeless and the illegal aliens in there. That's the utopian wet dream.
And you can imagine the left loves that kind of stuff. Oh, we're going to put the illegals in right in Malibu, right in the Palisades.
Well, they banned.
I mean, they ruined Santa Monica doing this. I mean,
they banned the building of one-family homes in LA County.
Yeah, wow.
They banned them. Yes.
Well, hold on, Mark. You're forgetting tiny houses. I bet they'll take those up.
They'll
have a rash of tiny houses for everybody.
1,000 tiny little houses across Malibu where those beach houses were, Robert.
To the left, that'd be the ultimate achievement.
Yes.
See, we took away the Malibu. I mean,
yes,
it's the pinnacle of economic success and wealth, and we gave it to you, the outsider, the outcast, the illegal, the homeless, the person, right? I mean, to them, that's an achievement. That's how insane these people are. I mean, and when they got away with what they did in Hawaii, you knew it was coming again. That under the guise of a natural disaster.
It's exactly the same as Hawaii. It's exactly the same as Maui.
And Harmy, Dillon, and Trump, should you unravel it, you're going to find big NGOs. You're going to find some of the same criminal culprits that we have with illegal immigration and other issues and election interference and other illicit activities. And because it's LA, you don't have to throw a rock far to be able to hit somebody that's also a pervert involved in various forms of human trafficking. So I see it as an opportunity for Trump to expose all the fraud that is California and LA.
That's why I'm predicting that press conference next week. He is going to, and he may do it himself, but I think he's going to pair up with Barja, who is very good out here, the Republican Board of Supervisor president, and Rick Caruso, who had the election stolen from him by Karen Bass. What this schmuck didn't do, and there's no explanation why he didn't do it. He did not himself nor have representatives overseeing the ballot counting, which went on for 3 weeks. He went to bed at night with a substantial lead. They counted for 3 weeks unsupervised. The county state registrar would not allow anyone to see the actual counting that went on for 3 weeks. And at the end of the 3 weeks, she was the mayor. And he took it up the ass, Caruso. He accepted it. Didn't challenge it, said, oh, well, you win some, you lose some. Now he's embittered. Now he's angry.
Right. And deservedly so.
Yeah, deservedly so. Yeah.
And they're going to, I mean, I'll give Mel credit. Mel Gibson was on with Rogan while his house was burning down. And he just quoted George Carlin. He was like, some things go the way it goes. Now that's probably because Mel is protected at probably multiple levels, so he's not going to be bankrupted by the event.
Not only that, he owns half of Costa Rica. I mean, his ranch in Costa Rica is probably 8,000 acres.
Yep.
So he's got another place to go, Robert.
He still owes me, even though his father gave me thanks. He still owes me a thanks because without the Snipes verdict, he would have been facing major criminal charges on tax evasion. But after the Snipes verdict, they were paranoid that actors somehow would magically walk in the tax case. Right. By the way, who was the U.S. attorney at the tax division who got humiliated by the result in the Snipes case? Such that Nathan Hochman.
Oh no,
he was the one who decided not to. He was supposed to appear with me some years ago, and he's still bitter about it. Because that case was going to make him famous, and he was going to get a prime gig, and it all went sideways on him.
Well, Hochman's in a strange position because he's got to put up or shut up and incarcerate. Yeah. And there's an entire system of faceless bureaucrats designed to stop him. The guy they caught with a blowtorch yesterday, who the citizens made a citizen's arrest on, taking him down in front of the house.
Which they didn't charge, by the way. They released, and they said that they didn't have probable cause to charge him, and he's completely scot-free.
That's what I was just going to say. I'm sorry. I
occasionally get in here. So.
No. It's fine. I was just going to say that. But again, this goes on Hochman. So we'll see if this guy's for real. I mean, he keeps going on TV saying he's going to prosecute criminals. I'm going like, yeah. What else would you do with them?
The cartels are entrenched now in the LA power structure. Yeah. And there's no way they didn't consult with them on these other fires. So if he's serious, he's going to have to go after the cartels. Let's see if he's got the chutzpah to do it.
By the way, this is Caruso. I thought you guys might want to see this if you haven't already.
Yeah.
This is the only thing standing in Pacific Palisades, ironically. Rick Caruso's mall.
Yeah.
But that's because he have private. He hired a
Sprayed
private
fire retardant and all the other stuff. But the point is that this is a guy that lost the election who knows what the F he's doing, it appears.
Exactly.
And
he understood water, he understood fire. And it's not when I was living in Malibu, the house next door burnt down because Ricky Lake didn't know how to use a kerosene heater. And so she was renting it from another guy. He was the guy that owns all those like business suits for $99 around LA.
Oh, I know you're talking about. Yeah.
See, I'll never forget. He told me his case was open and shut. And I was like, why is your case open and shut against Ricky Lake? He goes, I give her house. She give me burnt box. I give her house. She give me burnt box. I win case.
That's funny.
By the way, I think his house ended up getting protected because of the guy that I was in had that but so her house burned down live. I was there. I went out and but it took the fire truck like 30 minutes to get there. It was the first thing. I was like, okay, that's a little bit disconcerting. And then when I saw some of the firemen, because Malibu was already starting its diversity, equity, inclusion nonsense. Yeah. And I was like, these are not the firemen I'm used to. I was waiting for some strapping lads coming down ready to take care of it.
One of the top 3 DEI fire chiefs, they're all making about $400,000 a year, said, if I have to carry you out of a building, you put yourself in that position. That's not my responsibility.
And did you see her like running?
Yeah.
That was the kind of people that showed up I was like, oh no, I'm like, this is utterly uninspiring. This is like, so suddenly you can't get a job and you're disabled. You get put on the fire department. I was like, maybe that's not the place to work. She looked like one of the people for the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. A class low IQ lard ass. Look at.
Oh, here she is. Here she is.
And if you see her trying to run
to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better.
I agree.
To do this, or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire. Which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place. If I have to carry him out of a fire,
he got himself in the wrong place.
Look at that.
Look at this. Women are trans, though. That's what I'm confused by. Is that?
I don't even know what it is, but I want old Brooklyn Jews to carry me out of a fire, so I feel more comfortable with someone who looks like me carrying me out of a
Larry David
fire.
will come get you.
Larry David is the only guy who can carry me out.
Give me a bunch of rough, half-drunk Irish any day of the week.
Of course,
firemen. Give me real firemen. The most municipal governments around America were in part formed in the way they were simply to stop fires. That's what they were there for. That's the purpose of government.
I had a friend, Frank Foy, who was a New York City fireman, and his famous quote was, "Everything burns." And they would go through a house, and this is traditional, and I'm not putting out Frank Foy. Everything that's loose of value goes in the boots. As you're fighting the fire, everything goes in the boots. And then when you get back to the firehouse, everyone dumps their boots out on the table and they divide up their booty.
Divvy up, boys.
And that's a fire department thing that goes back to gangs of New York in 1865. Just so people understand, this is not LA, but this is in New York. I don't know what they do in LA, but New York does that.
On that note with the DEI, I've watched Adam Carolla, or known Adam Carolla for literally years and years and years. I'm listened to him for a while, but he's been railing and talking about this story since like 2010. And this is him in front of Congress summing up everything you're talking about. And this is several years ago.
I want to talk about my white privilege so badly. I graduated North Hollywood High with a 1.7 GPA. I could not find a job. I walked to a fire station in North Hollywood. I was 19. I was living in the garage of my family home. My mom was on welfare and food stamps. And I said, can I get a job as a fireman? And they said, no, because you're not Black, Hispanic, or a woman. We'll see in about 7 years. And I went to a construction site and dug ditches and picked up garbage for the next 7 years. I got a letter in the mail sent to my father's house saying, your time has come to do the written exam for the LA Fire Department. I took it and I was standing in line and I had a young woman of color standing behind me in line. And I said, just out of curiosity, when did you sign up to become a fireman? Because I did it, or a person, 7 years ago. And she said, Wednesday.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Well, he's been railing. He fled also. I think he's in the same hotel I'm in because the room looked exactly the same, Eric.
He said he was in Burbank.
He's Burbank. That's not going to really save you, bro. Dude, that's not going far enough. But
I don't know.
Yeah. But anyway, he's been broadcasting from a hotel, roasting everyone, Robert.
I mean, I'll give him credit. The sophistication of this. This is the first time that I can remember that immediately they started, and they were using, like they did this with BLM riots. Like they went in under the cover of BLM riots.
Yes.
They went into Santa Monica and a bunch of places, did a bunch of robbery. They've been robbing Palisades, people in the Palisades now for a year.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, what happened is illegals would fly up. They would come and mark out the properties. They would, look at, who's got property, when are they there, when are they not there. They would go in and do a robbery, smash and grab somebody's home when they thought they weren't there. If they got arrested, they were just being released and they would just fly back home and they would suffer no consequences. And the gangs are just escalating here.
Yeah.
They keep up a notch, up a notch, up a notch. The reason for the Venezuelan gang success is that they would be the most violent, most extreme. It like goes back to my argument that Hoover had one thing right. We were better off with the Italian organized crime than disorganized crime.
He was right about that. And also the proximity of the West Side to LAX, where they fly in, get out of the planes and go back to LAX with their booty, is also part of that. I think it was Justin Timberlake, or one actor, they found his Rolex in Venezuela in a drug bust last week. To go to your case.
That's funny.
So, yeah.
And that's where Trump can tie it into illegal immigration.
Yes.
And crime, California, lawfare, combine it all. And these, just an honest investigation of what took place here will unearth all of those culprits, the organized crime element, the gang element, the NGO element, and the high-ranking government. And there must have been government complicit officials at the federal level as well, because they're slow response on this when you compound it with California, with Western North Carolina, and then the disparity of response. We're going to bail everybody out supposedly in California, but we're not even providing propane heaters, and we're kicking people out. The only reason why some people have housing right now in Northern Carolina that are impacted by the floods is because a bunch of Amish refused to obey the FEMA's rules and built them their houses in 48 hours and kept building houses anyway. Thank God for the Amish, or people wouldn't have homes in Western North Carolina out of this. But somebody at the federal level was complicit in this, because normally their response would have been very different. I guarantee you their internal planning for a response is very different. So this was deliberate at multiple levels.
How quickly Newsom is separating himself from the pack now. He's calling for an investigation. Newsom, whatever you make of Newsom, he's a very sharp weather reader. Yeah, but he's a weather reader. He can read the weather politically. And he today began to separate himself from Karen Bass. And that has never been done before.
Well, he did it with Anderson Cooper when he said that was a local thing.
But today he's called for blue ribbon outside investigative bodies to investigate the reservoir and the lack of water.
Well, which is smart. By the way, North Carolina, did either of you see this? They put out an informative commercial. It was a few days ago, letting people know that, hey, it's property tax time in North Carolina. Your property tax is due, period. Oh, and if you lost everything, tough shit, property tax still due.
That's rough, man. That's fucking rough. But there's FEMA people everywhere here. Robert's right. I mean, the FEMA people were here so quickly. It was almost like they parachuted in with Biden, who, by the way, closed the airspace so he could get in and out of LAX, thereby preventing the LA Fire Department air traffic planes to use the airspace. Took them 2 days to start dropping on the fires, because this schmuck came in and told us about his grandchild. Oh, great.
Karen Bass, of course, forgot to mention that part. She only said, "Oh, well, the winds."
That was a lie.
That was a lie. Were able to start the flights again today. She kind of forgot that other part. That
was a bold-faced lie.
Of course,
she's been caught in so many lies so quickly. It's no wonder she kept her mouth shut in LAX. She probably didn't want to make it worse. This is not a chick who can think quick on her feet.
Oh, that's obvious. And he's a pure ideologue who's the figurehead of other people.
Yes.
But the thing is, now there are going to be some powerful people that lost money and property in this that are going to want remedy.
Ooh,
So
yeah.
This may be the greatest thing that ever happened to LA, because once you've penetrated the bubble of celebrity and altered their lives, they will turn on you like hornets. They do not care what happens, because nothing ever affects them. When something does affect them like this, they all of a sudden will lash out at who's ever responsible and crush them. This
they
may
can
be the
always
greatest
find a microphone too. Always can find a microphone to get their message
the point
out.
is they paid for this woman's campaign.
Mhm.
They paid for these people's elections, and they paid for a reason, not because they liked them. The only schmuck who can't figure this out apparently is Jamie Lee Curtis, who says they're doing a wonderful job and gave another $1 million to Karen Bass yesterday morning. Wow.
Hey, every cult has to have their members.
She's got a great rack and a small penis. I mean, you got to give it to her. I mean, that covers, she was so ahead of the movement, Jamie Lee Curtis. And somehow, and I love Christopher Guest, an ex-lampooner, one of the brilliant, funny lampoon guys who was there right before my time, but one of the strangest couples in Hollywood. I'll just put it that way.
And her mother was
Janet Leigh,
yeah.
The Scream Queen from Psycho.
Yeah.
Well, but both of them, really. I mean, she took after her mother with Halloween.
She started off as the Scream Queen herself.
Yeah, 100%. Was it Tony Randall's her dad, or I forgot?
No, Tony Curtis.
Tony Curtis. I knew it was Tony.
Tony Randall. That would be interesting. That's an odd couple.
Yeah. And people are like, what? Yeah, has some sort of a
she's got
weird
double
sexuality
double nepo.
I'm right. Oh yeah, big time.
She's Hollywood royalty, bro.
Oh, she is that.
100%. All right. So what do we want to go more on the fire, or do we want to start talking about
whatever you got in there? I don't know what you got.
We got Trump. I mean, I'm sure Barnes has a lot to say about Trump.
Is that a Packer hat you're wearing?
Yeah, because it's a playoff time.
That's my team, bro. That's my team.
Yeah,
you know what the great combination of recent memory is now Love to Romeo. The wide receiver named Romeo is being thrown to by Love.
It's true. That is true.
I know.
Well, I became a Packer fan because a big Tennessee football fan. Greatest player to ever play for Tennessee football, in my opinion. I mean, it's going to be close with Peyton Manning, but was from my hometown, Chattanooga, Tennessee, was Reggie White. And so
Reggie White became a minister, right?
Yeah, when he joined the Packers, I became a Packers fan. I went to Wisconsin Law School right when they won the Super Bowl. Became a Brett Favre fan. And it's a community-owned team. Great little bowl stadium, community atmosphere. It's what pro football should be, as opposed to what it sometimes is with others. And so, I'll be cheering for him. I'll have some money on him this week. I got some money riding on Texas tonight to upset Ohio State. Hoping they help upset the Buckeyes.
That team can't leave town either.
By the way, the Cardinal Ram game has been moved as of last night to Glendale, Arizona. No word at all about the people who have tickets who live in LA. They're reselling the tickets. They're selling tickets as if it's a brand new game in Glendale, Arizona. And I guess they're just going to refund the money to the people who bought the tickets here in as a home game.
That is what they do with bets. That you have to put in your bet all over again because they change the odds and they refund all prior bets once the venue has been changed.
Keep in mind, you lose your entire home field advantage because now you're in another state.
Sure.
It's really painful.
Well, wouldn't a proper response be to not, because in this case you're given the opposite home field advantage? Would it make more sense to move it to like Las Vegas or something to where
they have done that in the past? It's usually been a neutral site. It's usually been a neutral site. That's right.
Yeah, and it's against the Vikings. Though Minnesotans actually have more Minnesotans in Arizona than they do in Nevada. I would have preferred, if I'll be betting on the Rams. I would have preferred Vegas to Glendale.
Yeah, of course.
Well, that's local to you.
To you. Yeah, of course.
The NFL, I think, wants Minnesota. I think the NFL still wants the Chiefs. They're not playing in this round because of the question is how much will they push that again Like last time, it was all in buildup of 2024. Taylor Swift get a bunch of, and the NFL clearly helped rig those games. They assigned referees that would officiate on behalf of Kansas City. And again, I say this as a Mahomes fan, as a Andy Reid fan, as a great respecter of the Chiefs franchise. But the NFL rigged those games to make sure they won. And without the NFL weighing in on them, the Chiefs would have lost at least 2 of those 3 games.
You can tell by the beginning of a game whether they're in on it. Just by the rhythm, you know what I'm talking about. Just by the rhythm.
There'll be certain calls and certain things. Like, okay,
but how soon they start? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
They just go, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, we got that to look forward to.
But I don't know if they'll do it again, because I think it was all in court. It turned out the Taylor Swift factor was a big nail burger. And so maybe the league will be like, okay, we did that for 2024, but maybe now they're thinking maybe we should go like Zuckerberg and suddenly say, we've always been impartial. I mean, we really love Trump, and we're not going to promote Taylor Swift every 5 seconds. And we're not going to, I'm curious to see how they cover this set of playoffs and how this set of playoffs gets officiated.
How about an underdog story? I mean, the Chiefs are the big dog, so isn't it a good time to have the underdog story of the little team that could, especially if
that's right. I think they would like the Vikings more so than the Rams, because it's Minnesota. Minnesota's been in the Super Bowl since their 4 losses back in the day in the 70s, and it'd be a Middle America franchise.
Speaking of Zuckerberg, by the way, with his mea culpa, shouldn't he be indicted anyway, despite his mea culpa? Robert, please.
Well, at a minimum, turn him. Okay, if he's willing to rat out everything and provide all the evidence.
Yeah, give him immunity.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, clearly that's kind of what he wants. My take on him all along was that he was never political, that his wife was, and that he just thought
she's a Chinese honeypot from Shanghai, bro. I mean, give me a break.
And I think he wanted to placate her, and he thought that he would placate Soros, who was trying to short Facebook after 2016, and it never turned out the way he thought it was going to. And now he's like, why do I want to wage war with Trump? I never really cared about this crap to begin with. I just want money.
Well, let me ask you this: how does Uma Abedin hook up with Soros' son? She's 50, a Middle Eastern sea hag who is barren, now with the wealthiest billionaire's son in the world. How does that happen? What planet does that romance begin?
I mean, everything about her seems like. Remember, that's kind of what Roseanne got in trouble for way back.
Yeah,
it was Roseanne's comments about certain people around Obama.
Yeah,
one of those was her around Hillary, and everything about her seemed weird. I mean, seemed planted.
I mean, her mother is the editor of a Muslim Brotherhood newspaper in Egypt. Exactly. I mean, and she keeps hooking up with these sorry ass Jews.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly that is. And you got to say, maybe that's it's like if Israel gave you your Hezbollah and they help sell you some free pagers. Maybe turn it down. It may not be the best.
I hear Abbas is dating Netanyahu's daughter. This is going to be good.
Yeah, I have heard that.
No, that's a joke. That's a joke. I just
but there is some weird Netanyahu family connection to somebody that.
I didn't know that.
I just briefly saw the story, but I didn't see much detail. I think Netanyahu will come to the inauguration.
I didn't think about that either. Yeah, who else is coming to this?
I heard he invited the guy from China.
He just had surgery,
but he might not make it. Though.
He just had surgery.
I was just saying. I just heard earlier today. So
why did J.D. Vance need post-cocaine nasal surgery, Robert?
The nasal surgery. I don't know anything about it. I'm
just joking. I didn't know either.
But I mean, I think there's actually betting markets now in Kalshi on all kinds of insane things. But one of the things. There's bets like on the weather in Chicago at the end of the day, that kind of thing. But one of it is who's going to show up at the inauguration, and they're assuming that Michelle Obama is going to show up, and I'm like,
come on. She wouldn't even show up to Carter's funeral.
Exactly. Can you imagine? She stiffed Carter's funeral.
Go on. They're both dead. The husband and wife are gone.
Well, I heard that her and Barack maybe.
Well, that's what Pasovic was mentioning. Though they're politically aligned to the core. I mean, that was always a convenience marriage. It was like Bill and Hillary. I mean,
what were they joking about Trump and Obama in your mind, in your humble opinion?
I think that was a power move by Trump. Trump knew the cameras were rolling, and he wanted the world to see Obama laughing to Trump.
Yeah,
it's Trump's way of saying, "Remember who's boss."
I don't think he should have told him that old Jewish joke, though. That was a cheap shot.
But did you see what a prick Mike Pence's wife is? She refused to shake hands with Melania.
What about George Bush Jr.? He's slapping Obama in the chest like they just came off the playing field. What's up, bro? What's up?
Hey, look. Oh, yeah, you're a black president.
And he's blowing kisses to somebody across the room, to some other corpse.
He's probably missing Michelle because that's his great buddy at all these events. Remember the old W and the candy and Michelle Obama and this cute relationship that they always peddle?
That's right.
Well, yeah, given Michelle is Michelle and he's a Bush, it kind of makes sense.
How big of a prick was Jimmy Carter, from what you've heard? Because I've heard dozens of stories since I grew up with the guy,
About what was the first part?
How big of a prick was Jimmy Carter?
Oh, in person?
In person, yeah.
Now, he was fair with his workers, so I'll give him credit. Not everybody is. But politically, he was extremely competitive, uber competitive. He hated Ted Kennedy. And he liked being uber macho in a lot of his political,
except when attacked by a swimming rabbit when out at sea.
Yeah, well, and the reason for the documentary, they talk about it a little bit in one of the recent documentaries on Carter that I saw because I was curious. There's mostly been these various hagiographic memories of Carter. Now that because he's a Democratic ex-president, but Carter basically had a George Corley Wallace experience when he first ran for governor, and I think in '66, Lester Maddox beat him.
So you're talking about a political conversion.
Oh yeah. In 1970, Carter basically implied, "I'll keep those folks down. I'll make sure that block vote, he means black vote, doesn't dominate, and it isn't our sole." He ran basically a thinly. It's a campaign that would today be described as a racist campaign.
Was he the last president to actually own slaves, Robert?
No, Barack Obama's parents did. Kamala Harris's parents did.
You're right.
Imagine only America could figure out, let's make sure the first black president has no slaves and ancestors, but has slave owners' ancestors.
Right.
And let's make sure the first black vice president has no slave ancestors, but does have slave ownership ancestors.
Very confusing.
I think the only presidents since Eisenhower that haven't owned slaves in their family are the Kennedys and Trump.
Well, I think Nixon too.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
I think
no.
Someone in Nixon's ancestry may have owned.
I haven't seen it. If it is there, it may be there.
I'm pretty sure it'd be rolled out if it was.
And I'm in San Clemente right now. There's very few slaves here now. What's that?
The Quakers, of course, opposed slavery, so it makes sense that he wouldn't. But for some reason, I thought there was somewhere along the line that he did actually. They found some ancestors. But I'm not certain of that, just because I thought that.
Flavor Flav told me that the Jews invented the slave trade, and Chuck D backed him up.
There's tons of books on that kind of thing, right? These eclectic, all the Candace Owens stuff.
Yeah.
It's amazing how people get the USS Liberty wrong. It's like staring them in the face.
It's so crazy. But as I pointed out, and we've both gone into this USS Liberty thing before, there's so many other cases like that in warfare. You know what I mean? Where under the fog of war, or even as you pointed out, with a false flag, flying the Egyptian flag, or flying
friendly fire killed Pat Tillman.
Of course, but their obsession with the Jews. That's what separates the men from the boys, or in this case, the men from the goys.
Now, I guess Candace has got into some controversy. I guess Macron is threatening to sue her over her claim that
it took long enough because he claimed that the wife is Mrs. Big Mike in France is essentially what she's saying.
Right. I remember that.
I'm pretty sure that one's not true. I think she's.
I don't think
that was his art teacher, for Christ's sake.
It's kind of funny because it's like you could always go with what it really is, which is a much older woman with an underage student. Here they'd be arrested.
She was his junior high school teacher, for Christ's sake.
I know.
It's France, of course. So France is where your mistress and wife join together at your funeral. So it's a place where
Benjamin Franklin, when Thomas Jefferson gets there, and Thomas Jefferson said, "Oh, this is where you've been for 2 years." He goes, "You bet your life, and I ain't leaving."
Well, Ben was
there. He was at the French orchards every night for 2 years.
Ben was Casanova before Casanova.
Yeah, he was great to everybody but his wife. Yeah, and that was pretty ugly. Wow. Hey, how about this guy? I want to see what you guys think of this. the most unlikely person who has become completely normalized over and over.
Oh, Fetterman. Yeah, I
Senator.
agree.
Look at this guy. What goes
Can
on
we
in
ask
there?
you what you hope to get out of your visit to Mar-a-Lago to talk to Donald Trump?
What are we talking about here? Is there some news?
There's some news. We hear that you're going to be heading down to Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yes, I've heard that. Yeah.
What would you be discussing with the president?
Well, yeah, I demand that I need to be made Pope of Greenland.
Do you have the resume to be Pope?
I'm having a conversation like he's the president.
This is
gonna
great.
be. So, I am not the senator for just Democrats in Pennsylvania. I'm everyone's senator in Pennsylvania. And so it's just having a conversation with
Anyway, I think he had his brain
That's
replaced.
hysterical. Okay.
No,
I
he's
think-
great. I mean,
Well, his honeypot wife probably got divorced from him. What does he have? A
Oh, that's
gym in that
right.
office?
That's right. Didn't she
Let me ask
divorce-
something. Is he working out in that office? Is there like an Equinox gym in there? What's
I
the
don't
deal? What's the deal?
That's now his look. That's now his brand.
No, but it's like
Yeah.
every day. I don't understand.
Yeah, the
Nobody
hoodie.
asks him about it. There's no explanation why he's
That's
wearing
true.
shorts. I mean, it's the most insane. I could see once in a blue moon, but you're right, Robert. It's every day, and he won't even wear sweatpants. I mean, okay, there's plenty of Adidas tracksuits that are attractive and expensive that you could wear. He has chosen to go in a trailer park world out of Nebraska, and nobody even bothers to say anything anymore.
And I think it's, I think it's going to help. I think he looks at what happened. And you saw also some Democratic senators break on the immigration bill and some other
89-9 on Lincoln Riley. That was huge. And he was a co-sponsor, by the way. So
wow.
Think about all those 155 Democrats in the House who are now like, why did we vote no on this? What was the point of this? When they voted 9 senators to go with him. But what he realized, he sees the tea leaves and he's like, I've got to carve out space. He just saw Bob Casey Jr. go down. And he's like, I'm not going down like Bob Casey Jr.
Right.
I'm going to carve out space where I'm seen as an independent.
Will he switch parties, Robert?
I think he's mentioned for now because it was weird. Scott Pressler was having talks with him of all people.
I think he'll only
weird.
change parties if he has to. I think his goal is to be seen as an independent-leaning Democrat who will put himself in a much better position to win re-election down the road in 2028. I mean, he's got, some years away before he faces re-election, but I think, he's read the tea leaves smartly and that's why he's ahead of the curve.
I think it's going to switch right before the election. Let's move on to Trump because this thing is important. I predict that they will tie this up in the appellate and state Supreme Court for exactly 4 years.
Oh, they're going to try to, it's what I said was going to happen. The reason why he's not going to give him a sentence is to avoid a higher Supreme Court involvement.
Right.
And the Supreme Court cited that as their main basis to not intervene. And unfortunately, it's what I predicted all the way back. And some of these conservatives are acting shocked. We're shocked that Amy Coney Barrett is this. It was all there in her history. It was all there in her prior decisions. Conservatives who tell you they're shocked didn't do their due diligence. Didn't pay attention.
Well, how about the guy wishing him Godspeed in his new administration? How about that little F you at the end, Robert?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just Mershon, you could look at, Dershowitz agrees, Turley agrees, other people agree beyond Trump supporters that this was a rogue case and that he should be subject, along with his daughter, to federal civil rights investigation.
I agree.
For weaponized lawfare.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful that somebody does something about it. In that respect.
If it's left to Dershowitz and people like Greta Van Susteren and others do not want this tit for tat lawfare, Robert.
Right.
They want to quote unquote bury the hatchet.
And it's okay to bury the hatchet as long as certain people face consequences so it doesn't happen again. This isn't
It's
about
okay to bury the hatchet if you bury it in your opponent's back. That's what I was taught as a kid from my grandfather.
Well, that's an old James Carville quote. He goes, if your enemy is drowning, throw him an anchor.
That's right.
Carville's been funny as the Dickens since the election.
Absolutely. He's mocking himself. He's going like, I know I'm 80 years old, but how could I have been so goddamn stupid?
Yeah, exactly. I've told him before, years ago, he debated at Yale. that the old Cajun Carville I was fully on board with. This new Garden District Carville has a different approach there. If he was living in the edgier part of New Orleans, maybe he'd be a little better connected. But his rants at these young lefties and how they're ruining Democratic Party politics is dead on accurate.
As I said, the last 6 months of this administration and this year are going to be the craziest in American history. And it's even worse than I even predicted. Every single day, there seems to be another mega story leading up to, we need 10 more days to get this thing over. And every day is another story of mega proportions. I mean, Trump came out today saying on day one, he's going to release the information on the drones now.
Yep, which is great. And I hope he releases.
Everybody forgot about the drone story, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, just declassify everything day one.
Yeah.
That's be part of the executive orders, fixing immigration, getting things aligned for his agenda, and declassify everything. Declassify Russiagate, declassify the Kennedy assassination files, all the Kennedy assassination files, not just John Kennedy, but Robert Kennedy. Declassify all the drone files that you can to get the core facts out.
Also the MLK files that are in there.
And the MLK files, absolutely. Yeah. The Malcolm X files. Yeah. I mean, to declassify those. Get all the assassination files out for the world to see. What else? Also, I think, and then at the same time, do a bunch of pardons and commutations for Ross Ulbricht. I hope he includes every January 6th defendant. I hope he includes people like Roger Ver and Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. But you bombard the press so they can't just focus on the January 6th.
They can't cherry pick. You stop them from cherry picking. Yeah,
flood the zone like
so many big stories that it's impossible to avoid. I would say the one advantage to all of this craziness, chaos we've seen over the last 3 weeks is it's prevented them from building a media narrative against his nominees.
Yeah,
that has stayed kind of under the radar, and they're so distracted by these big stories that they haven't been able to build a case against any of them. And I know Tulsi got into some controversy, but Tulsi made the pragmatic decision that she was like, as a legislator, I would oppose these surveillance techniques, but as ODNI, my job isn't to make that policy.
Good choice.
To get the intelligence and tell you. And I think
that was like the Kennedy abortion idea. I'm Catholic, but
right. Robert Kennedy's like, look, I have a different position on abortion than the president, but the president appointed me. He gets to decide what our abortion policy is, not me. My job is just
even going back to his uncle, to Jack Kennedy. I don't work for the Pope.
Exactly.
In the primary in West Virginia.
That's right. The Baptist preachers.
Yeah.
And got them on board. They won West Virginia.
Yep.
I think Kennedy's going to get through. I think Gabbard's going to get through.
Definitely.
Which is fantastic.
Who's at risk?
I don't think anybody's at risk.
They originally wanted. Gabbard was originally at risk, but she's figured things out in such a way. And the reason why Tucker did a show the other day was Trump's way of sending a message that if these key people are rejected, there's going to be hell to pay. So, like, once Joni Ernst got smacked around after she went after Hegseth, everybody on the Senate side was like, we better think about our options here. And once Trump, the reason why he made an example out of Chip Roy, he was just saying, any of you senators thinking about opposing my nominees, I'm going to primary you. And that's going to be a different, and I'm going to personally guarantee it. They're seeing a different Trump. And so they're like, well, maybe now is not the time to fight Trump on this.
How about Musk? Is Musk adding some of the muscle to that?
Yeah, because they're enraged at Musk. They're going insane around the world. The left is at Musk. And I get the right being sensitive to anything him doing in terms of algorithmic manipulation and the rest. For now, I give Musk the benefit of the doubt because the guy has risked his life on this past election.
Absolutely.
And now he's got the Brits after him. He's got the Germans after him.
Should we invade the UK and liberate them?
Yeah, return the homeland to freedom and liberty.
Yeah.
And we should treat them all as territories. No voting rights. Just territories. We got to as the guy says in Taylor of Panama, son, there's a star missing in our flag.
Yeah.
Before they give the Panama Canal. Well, people don't understand. People have been asking me, does this mean Trump is suddenly an imperialist? And no, Trump just wants to control the shipping routes.
That's
Greenland, Northern Canada, Panama Canal, the huge, for the next century, global China and Russia are trying to control those global shipping routes.
I predicted that Justin Trudeau will hang on till October 20th for the election. When do you think he'll physically go, in your opinion?
The betting odds are that he goes by April. So
Okay. All right.
I don't know if there's something internal that makes that work. Did you notice one thing the media didn't cover? Did you notice his implicit pot shot at Harris and Biden?
No, I did not.
Because what he said was he goes, my replacement will be done by a proper, complete, full election process.
Interesting.
That was that was a direct.
There is a vacuum out here that has yet to be mentioned, that a resident from here named Kamala Harris has not said one word nor shown any interest in these fires since they have occurred. And she has a residence in Brentwood, California, right here with her husband.
Yeah,
that's right.
I think they're doing something tonight. I think she's supposed to have something tonight, according to Two-Way.
They got to hope that she doesn't do her cackle.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Or
Mix
the wine with Xanax again, because that's bad.
People think she's going to run for something. She'll only let people think that in order to get paid off. She's looking, I think, for payoff. I don't think she's wanting to run. She likes holding office. She doesn't like running for office. Like Trump really actually loves campaigning. He's one of those few rare political figures that really does.
I think he's going to miss it. I think you're right. He's going to miss this. He can't do it anymore. Yeah. And I think he was savoring every last rally that he had.
What do you make of the three mayors of the three biggest cities, all of them being in trouble? Eric in New York and Bass here, Chicago. What has happened to these three major metropolises?
It's because the left Democrats' strategies it's like late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
This is not a successful mayoral city management policy.
Right.
It was a complete disaster when they tried this in the late 60s and early 70s. Right. People forget our cities became a shithole. I mean, Dirty Harry was made out of San Francisco by John Milius for a reason. It was a shithole. People forget our cities went from being prime, perfect examples of ideal cities for the world in the 1950s to being places to avoid at all costs, such that when Trump invested in Manhattan, his father thought he was insane.
I heard that Andrew Cuomo has thrown his hat into the mayoral ring in New York City.
Yeah, he's been. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, to make a comeback along the lines that his father did.
Yeah.
You remember that great campaign slogan, right? For Cuomo against Koch?
I don't remember.
Vote for Cuomo, not the homo.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
I mean, hey, it's campaign slogans go. It's memorable.
That was a good one.
They
never caught me with a boy or a man. I was the mayor of New York for many years. Nobody ever caught me, Robert.
The Koch-Trump fights used to be delicious.
Yeah.
Because Koch was a master at PR.
Some of them are on film. I mean, some of those were recorded,
Absolutely. I remember, Koch is in trouble. So he's like, okay, I'll shut down the hospital in the black area and give it to, say, the Puerto Ricans over here. That'll solve this problem. He was a master at urban political manipulation. But his predecessors, I mean, remember Rockefeller? I mean, they were just a disaster. The sort of Mitt Romney's dad was a disaster with his policies in Detroit, led it to being a complete shithole. That's what they're recreating all over again. And that's why it's going to be a disaster. I think Adams has actually tried to resist, and that's why
Adams be pardoned by Trump?
I think he will, because I'm encouraging him to, because I'm like, look, put anybody that's been a victim of lawfare, put on there, and pick the highest profile ones, and pick the ones that have no political ties to you. That's where Roger Ver is perfect because
he'd have a lot of influence in the city of New York if he pardoned the mayor of New York.
Pardon Adams, because Adams has clearly been targeted because he never liked the illegal immigration policy. He used to be a Republican. He came from a police background, law enforcement background, so he was never one of these BLM guys.
He's talking about going back.
Yeah, that was
Republican.
He's switching parties again.
Yeah. He's probably thinking about Rudy. Rudy took that route, went Republican, was able to win the mayor's race.
I voted for Rudy on the Liberal Party ticket when he ran for mayor. Surprisingly, he was the Liberal Party candidate.
Well, you remember, people have forgot, the new generations, how bad New York was before Rudy.
Boy. It was.
I mean, it was just David Dinkins and the rest. It was just one big disaster. It was a huge crime section. I remember the first time I ever went to New York. A little kid, we were riding the dog, the Greyhound, going up to my grandparents to work for him because my grandfather was a big fan of. When he found out there was a family labor exemption to the minimum wage, he's like, "This is the greatest thing ever. Bring them all up here." You know, Lee. I don't care if Bobby's 10 years old. We'll pay him $1 an hour. This is great.
That's cruel. That's cruel.
Yeah, that was my grandfather. He taught me to hate bosses. From the time I was 10, I was like, but the grandfather not. But I told my mom, wake me up when we get to New York City because I got to see New York City.
Yeah.
And mom wakes me up. I look up and there's a guy pissing on the side of the road. That was my introduction to New York City. It was not.
Well, let me ask you this: this is just out of your hat now. Who do you think Biden will pardon as he's going out? What odd ones have we not seen that you believe with your crystal balls? And no reflection on your testicles, but in your crystal political balls, who do you see as an odd one?
Well, I'll give out one of the free picks that I put out at sportspicks.locals.com. If you were there, you made a lot of money on the election. You doubled your money, tripled your money. Some people quintupled their money. But because Kalshi has live betting markets, preemptive pardon, it's like Liz Cheney was trading at 5-1. I would almost guarantee Liz Cheney gets pardoned.
Hold on, let me write this down. Liz Cheney. Okay, go on.
So Liz Cheney for sure.
Right.
Kinzinger is probably second on that list.
No, really?
Yeah, think of who the deep state is going to tell Biden to pardon.
Okay.
Whoever's been an effective advocate for them.
What about Schiff? Do they get a pardon?
Schiff they don't need because he's in the U.S. Senate. I think they're not worried about Trump targeting him.
He's an untouchable.
But Kinzinger they're worried about. Liz Cheney they're really worried about. And I think those two. But don't be surprised if Norm Eisen's on that list. Don't be surprised. I mean, there's a lot of people who are outside government who are illegally using their government connections and ties to weaponize the legal system to take out their political adversaries. The orchestrator of much of this lawfare, Bard McQuaid, another one.
What about the black dude who just got the medal with Liz Cheney from the committee? Tompkins.
Potentially, but
Benny Tompkins.
It wouldn't surprise me if those individuals are not as worried, like African American congressmen. They're not going to be worried because of their status. They figure Trump's not going to come after them.
Right.
But people like Cheney, people like Kinzinger, and also they will be demanding it. There'll be people who I don't want to look over my shoulder. I just want to get paid off now.
Yeah.
For my loyal anti-Trump work over the last 4 years.
I've been good to you people. I've been very good to you people. I answered the phone.
There's no way but the other thing is, who else Joe Biden pardons?
I don't know.
Brother himself, right?
Whoever's writing checks over the next 2 weeks.
Oh, well, yeah.
Absolutely.
Telling everybody and their brother.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be obscure people we've never even heard of.
This is his last big payoff for the whole
I hear he's only accepting money orders now because the time for the check to clear has been reduced. Is that true, Robert? He's only postal money orders?
They want it delivered in cold, hard cash.
Or Bitcoin. What if he gets in Bitcoin?
Yeah, he wouldn't mind that at all. You know that the family's out there shopping that.
Absolutely.
Because this is going to be their last payoff.
He doesn't have a book. He doesn't have anything.
Correct. This has been the whole family's economic model. Right. His brother, his sister, his kids, everybody has been his political access.
But that is gone. Just reverse it. The guy goes out of office. He dies. Whatever happens to this piece of shit. His family goes for a job. Random job. Who is going to hire that family to do anything?
Exactly.
Nobody.
Correct. That's why he's got to get the payoffs now. And he would probably wait until the last day to pardon any family members. I say 50-50 on the family members. Yeah. But why? Because any crimes they commit in the next 2 weeks, he wants to include.
Yeah, it's going to. Oh, I see. So you're going to have a 2-week crime spree.
I get it. Yeah.
You can't pardon prospective
behavior.
Covered. You can do preemptive pardons, but not preemptive conduct. Right. So you want to wait until the last minute to pardon yourself.
So he gets on the phone last night.
He
gets on the phone like 11:30.
We got 2 weeks for a crime spree, everybody.
It's me, Joe. All right, look, no more crimes. You got a half an hour left. No crimes. I'm pardoning you now, you piece of shit.
Well, I don't know. Probably has to be earlier than that because do you think he'll be awake to sign it off at that
late?
Are
you still up? Are you still awake? This Joe. No crimes. Got 2 hours. No crimes.
Yep, exactly. That's. I mean, you almost wonder whether some of this other stuff that's going on is that, right?
I know.
Like he offered somebody something like, okay, you can use your drones for now, for these 2 weeks. Now that I'm going to be out, so that'll pay off that one.
He sent more money to Ukraine yesterday. When does this stop? Does that go till midnight? Also, Robert, how long does that go?
Actually, maybe that's part of his retirement right there. Is the kickback from Ukraine.
Sending it over there, he'll send someone to pick it up after the.
I would say it stops January 21st. But remember the last time Trump even put a temporary hold on Ukraine.
Crazy. Right. They went crazy. Right.
They impeached him for putting a temporary hold on Ukraine money. I mean, it's just now I think he and Putin know. I mean, the bottom line is you just let the part of Russia that's Novorossiya, that's the Western, that's far Eastern Ukraine, just give it to Russia. It's always Russia anyway.
Of course.
And cut off the money.
Yeah.
And Zelensky doesn't really care. He's an actor operating on a script.
He doesn't give a shit.
He moves back to Malibu. Maybe he gets the biggest.
Get this guy Kellogg to go over there and sit down with them as a precursor for the big meeting with the big guy, and then you bring all three of them together for the big guy.
Correct.
Iron it out before it gets to Trump.
Yeah. Hey, question about this: is this possible too that pump all this money to Ukraine right now, which is not going to be spent on anything, not on the war or anything else? Oops, then the war ends the second Trump gets in, but they've pocketed all the cash that they grabbed.
Well, that's what they're doing. It seems like what they're doing right now.
Much of the money doesn't ever go to Ukraine.
Right.
It's for Ukraine, but it's going to Western companies that are going to sit on that cash. Right. Now, the question is whether, Trump follows through on, I don't think, BlackRock basically wanted East Ukraine for itself.
Yeah.
And part of the leverage was to use all the money lent to Ukraine to basically steal all of Ukraine's wealthiest resources. There is a part of Trump that loves to, grab the oil, as he puts it. Mm-hmm. I don't think he wants to muck around here, though. He doesn't want a constant conflict with Russia or Putin. He sees that as.
I think he sent Don Jr. over to Greenland to see what they could build there when they buy that.
Yeah,
I think that was a tour of Greenland to see where they could put apartment buildings and hotels.
A bunch of people in Greenland are game. Well, if you look at people like why all of a sudden Greenland, Canada, and Panama Canal, if you look at shipping routes, all three are key. I think his negotiation leverage is start off with I'm going to take your whole country.
Yeah.
Just give me operational security control over the shipping routes, and I'll take that as fine, so that China and Russia don't monopolize that.
Right.
Because
I wish he would take Denmark because they have the hotter chicks. If he sees Denmark, I would be really proud of him.
That's how the Danes and the Swedes mock the Brits when they play in soccer matches. They say, "Go home to the Danes and the Swedes." Mock the Brits by saying, "Go home to your ugly wives, your ugly wives."
Oh, that's a cheap shot. That's a cheap shot. Yeah. Wow.
One thing that was interesting, and I did not realize that Two-Way had the former ambassador to Denmark on. And apparently the relationship between Denmark and Greenland is frosty as hell. Mm-hmm. They don't like Denmark at all. And they may vote to say, hey, we want to go over to the U.S. And that could be very interesting because the Prime Minister of Denmark said, this is Greenland's country and it's up to Greenland.
The dirty secret is none of them like the Swedes, and the Swedes are the Polish jokes of Scandinavia. Every joke they tell is the equivalent of a Polish joke, and the butt of the joke are the Swedes. These countries do not like each other, Eric. There is, among all of them, there's friction among all of them. And when you get
Norway and Sweden have a little back and forth.
Yeah, and don't get me started with Finland. I mean, they just they're in trouble. They just signed up for the wrong subscription.
Completely. I mean, you're right on the board of Russia, and you want to mess around with that?
Right. You got to live there. You know what I mean? It's like wearing a Klan robe during a rally in Harlem, and everybody else left. Now you're just stuck with a Klan robe on 125th Street.
Yeah. Now we do have both. Nordic and Swedes in our audience, so I'm looking for them to confirm. Pew Pew is in Norway, and then we've got entry required in Sweden.
Surprisingly, they're all friends of the Jews, which I always appreciate, especially King Olaf of Sweden, who saved a lot of Jews when the Third Reich showed up. They were not happy with him.
Yeah, I was watching Tick History did an interesting documentary. Does all this great, fascinating stuff really, documenting how much Hitler was a statist, and the whole Nazi movement was rooted in a version of socialism and communism and statism. And he recently detailed how much he makes a convincing case that Hitler thought he was the second coming of Odin. That
I'll get into that another time. I know a lot about that. The Olaf was Norwegian. That's interesting. Wait a second. Wasn't he the king of? He was king of Norway, is what this guy's saying, right? Or no?
Oh, that he wanted to be the famed Norse god Odin.
Oh yeah. Well, really, it's Himmler who is the real leader of this movement. The pagan movement is Himmler. In fact, Hitler is much more scientific. Himmler is off the rails. Himmler is the guy that's ordering the holes to be dug to the center of the earth because there are giants and dwarves down there. I mean, the amount of stuff that Himmler did, he believed that the earth was covered with glass that could be punctured by their missiles. Don't get me started with Himmler. Hitler was like, he used to mock Himmler for his crazy beliefs. Rounded up every single fortune teller and astrologer in Germany, and then the British got hip to it and started airdropping phony astrology reports and phony newspapers because they were so hooked on astrology.
I didn't realize that Hitler was an original ancient apocalypse guy.
Yeah.
That he believed that there was an ancient civilization that had been destroyed by he sounded like, what's his name on the Netflix series?
Hancock, Graham Hancock.
Yeah. I was like, holy cow. He was an early.
But it's Himmler and spades that it really comes from. Oh, he's the educator of Hitler, and
he's the guy that the temple, the movie by Spielberg.
Yeah,
the guy that's supposed to be Himmler's, right? The character who's all excited to finally get the Ark of the Covenant because
that was quite real.
Raiders Lost Ark.
Himmler went looking for that, and they spent a fortune trying to find it, Robert. They went into Austria and they got the spear that pierced Jesus's side. And then Himmler buries it underneath a giant mansion in Germany and in Nuremberg. It ends up underneath the courthouse in Nuremberg. The spear that pierced Jesus.
Spear of Destiny, I think, or something.
I forgot the name. The spear that pierced his side. You had to have that to be a ruler in that region, and it went back centuries. King after king after king had that spear.
Fascinating.
And don't get me started with Albert Speer, because that's another episode.
Oh yeah, the guy who wrote about the Masons, right?
Right. There's a lot of mumbo jumbo with the
Nazis were also obsessed with the Masons. They thought the Masons had truly discovered the secrets of the universe.
Yeah, it wasn't all about the Jews. They didn't like Catholics either, apparently.
Oh yeah, well, and didn't gypsies, disabled, didn't like. I mean, pretty much all.
Like, when you go to Dachau, and I'm not saying you should, but when you go to Dachau, they have like a little museum on the side, and one of the things they have, besides the fact that you could buy T-shirts and coffee, which I found to be odd for a death camp, but who am I? They have the original.
Well, what are the T-shirts? I survived Auschwitz. I mean,
right? No, it's Dachau. I was at Dachau, Mom. This is better than any summer camp I mean, come on.
I mean, well, what kind of T-shirts can you wear that aren't like Michael Malice level trolling? You know,
they have just barbed wire, like a piece of barbed wire. You know,
anyway, that's worse than like buying Elvis's sweat at Graceland.
Dude, I was stunned. I was stunned when I went there. Anyway, they have.
What about a Dachau dark roast? That's terrible. I
had a dark roast. It was made by the inmates, they said. But the point of the matter is, they had all the patches that they wore. And there were dozens of them. There were pink triangles. There were the yellow triangles. But there were dozens of others I've never heard of in all different colors. Because Dachau was originally a political camp. So they had communist colors. They had colors for the gay one, I think, was pink. All these different patches that they wore to designate who these people were, besides the yellow Star of David.
Wow. That is wild.
And they show you a short film after the tour when it was active with newsreel footage, which was very helpful.
Fascinating.
Yeah, go to Dachau, because the thing about Dachau is you are blown away by how close the town is to the camp. It's literally across the street, all four corners. Dachau, it's literally across the street. They smelled death every single day coming out of that camp and denied that it existed until Eisenhower dragged them in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, on that happy note, let's look at some super chats.
Oh, yeah.
Cash
how
makes
about
me
some
always
super
feel
chats,
better.
boys? How about a couple of super chats?
Jack White is a
Jack
new
White,
member.
the White Stripes.
Dustin wants to know, is this the last straw, Mark? Will you be leaving California?
I am staying for the full ride, Dustin. Are you kidding? To quit now? This is the most exciting part. Now it's going crazy. I feel like I'm in Moscow in 1917. This is really great.
Enjoy. Jim tells you, love the show, and you guys are awesome. Barnes too. Thank you. He's been a member for 10 months.
You have to have an exit strategy. I'll put it that way.
ISB Robinson with $50. Thank you very much. Glad you're okay, Mark. Having went through Helene and the mountains east in disasters are no fun. You need to see send Karen Bass the way of Lori Lesbo Lightfoot. FYI, can't wait to hear more about the January 6th conspiracy you talked about earlier this week. That's got to be next Tuesday. Mark kind of got interrupted.
I'm sorry.
With this fire situation.
I'm sorry, I was interrupted by fire. I'm going to have to talk about that Tuesday.
But we will be talking about it for sure. And Beavis Wallace comes in hot with $100. Howdy, brothers. Without homeowners insurance, do people lose all their equity when their homes burned? Used to have a $2 million home and now nothing. Please explain.
No, that's exactly true.
100%. Yes.
That's why they're weeping in open ash fields right now. They have nothing.
And the motivation to do it on the side of the people that didn't provide for insurance to be available is that if the person doesn't have any recourse, then they can't rebuild and have to sell on the cheap to political insiders. That's what's going on, in my opinion.
And also that those same people probably will suffer the same North Carolina fate, which is how about those property taxes? You still own the property, up until now. So you owe us tough shit. They don't, state doesn't care. Robert Bishop, glad the Lord is okay. Okay, that's Lord Buckley, I'm guessing. DEI and insurance investigation. Imagine how those Lahana and 15-minute city victims in the mountains feel. God should be blamed for due shizzle, in my honest opinion. Were any resorts affected?
In Malibu?
There are no resorts in Malibu.
No, there's no resorts there, bro.
No.
It's just condos and houses.
And rehab facilities.
And rehab
which are disguised resorts. But those are up on the those haven't been as badly affected, I'm guessing, because
they're on the other side. I mean, the ones that I know about are up on the hills across the street, but the hills were burning. The hills were burning.
Somewhere, Hunter Biden's house that he was renting went bye-bye.
Yeah, and all the freebase and tools and coke and all this paraphernalia.
Yeah, you're right. His house probably went up fast.
It's fast, went up super fast.
There you go.
The porno magazines that went up so quickly.
All right. John S. Glad you made it to San Clemente, Mark.
Yes, nice down here.
Diffuse 56 gifted 5 America's Untold Stories memberships, which you deeply appreciate. Andrew Ho is with Australian $10. Hello tomorrow. Obama and Bush are cousins also until Trump's first marriage in 2016. I don't know. All U.S. presidents except Van Buren are related to each other.
It's a commonly held view, but you dig in, it's not really the case.
A lot of them are. I know that it's kind of like King John. I think almost all of them go back to King John.
Right, in the sense that if you go back far enough, then everybody does some connection, but the connections are not. I mean, the original, founding generation produced most of our first directly or indirectly presidents. So in that sense, people can comment back. But like the idea that the Kennedys are connected to this, and other, it's like, okay, hold on. Obama. I mean, on his mom's side, you can go back to slave ancestors and et cetera. Mm-hmm. And you go back far enough, maybe you can find some ties to the Bushes.
You go back to his grandmother's CIA bank in Honolulu, for Christ's sakes. I mean, if you want to go that far back.
I think Big Fish has got a good point. Fetterman can negotiate support for some of Trump's controversial nominees.
Yeah. Well, I want to say something else about this.
He signaled that too, by the way. That
the words climate change have disappeared from the lexicon out here in the news all of a sudden because they realized that dog won't hunt over the bitter people who have lost their homes do not want to hear about climate change. So they have dropped that for now, in their vernacular.
Oh, Karen will bring it up. The wins, Mark, the wins. Let me see. Isle of Boston. Will Bannon, Poso, Raheem be successful in driving a wedge between Musk and Trump?
No,
I don't think that's going to happen.
I mean, that's just Bannon, carving out his territory.
Yeah.
Musk and Trump are fine, and there was legitimate pushback on Musk, but not legitimate concern with Musk. Is my thing.
All right, Jack White. Don't forget about TPUSA and Charlie Kirk when it comes to primary and senators who won't go along with the MAGA agenda. Speaking of Charlie Kirk, Barnes, what do you think about his supposed run for Arizona governor?
Yeah, is that realistic?
You haven't heard about it?
No.
Supposedly he's eyeballing governor of Arizona.
He's really young. I mean, I know Kerry.
That's my issue. Has
decided to not pursue any further Arizona politics. She's going to be head of.
Who could blame her? Who could blame her?
I think she could do some really interesting things with Voice of America. Make it no longer just a deep state talk microphone. Do some legitimate, interesting stuff like she's talking about.
I'd like to have a voiceover of America where we bring in famous impersonators who just go, "Hey, how about that United States?" Hey, it's the Mike Tyson impersonator. It's called Voiceover of America.
All right. Well, Trey Ellswick wants to give you a couple bucks towards your hotel bill.
Yeah, that'll make a small dent. Thank you, though.
Very small, but it's so nice.
Small. Thank you. I'm living here now, bro.
Did hotels price gouge in this situation?
In fact, they filled up so freaking quickly. I was lucky to get out time. And get down here to get a hotel. Everybody fled at the same time, Robert. And I mean tens of thousands of people fled LA.
I'll give a shout out to Mike Cernovich. He's been helping raise money for
food
and meals for people and stuff. And Andrew Gruhl, the chef, who's got
Chef Gruhl.
He's been opening his place, just giving free food to people. So credit to both of them helping people out that are getting adversely impacted by this. Because contrary to the conventional wisdom, as Mark pointed out, Altadena, I represented the Stuvey family that, the name Altadena comes from that working class area that got hit by the fireplace. The fires, a lot of blue collar people, working class
small homes. They're almost like
the poor Pasadena, right? Altadena's the poor Pasadena.
Well, Pasadena has entire black neighborhoods. Jackie Robinson came out of Pasadena in 1940. I mean, Pasadena has a long history of African American neighborhoods there. Altadena does too.
Yep.
All right. Exactly. Fletcher Boy said, Robert, sue Los Angeles and California on behalf of Mark.
Oh, I like this. What okay, we'll just go do the discovery to get the documents, Robert.
Yeah. If you can survive a motion to dismiss, that's the key.
Yeah. Probably I have incredible emotional distress. I'm traumatized. I have PTSD squared.
Yeah. Well, if it works for these crazy cases against Rudy Giuliani and Alex Jones, then
what's going to happen to this Giuliani case, in your humble opinion?
I mean, a higher court should just vacate the verdict for being absurd, but unfortunately, that doesn't look likely.
They're racing against time to seize his assets, it looks like, before Trump can get into office.
Yeah, and wanting him imprisoned until he turns it over.
Yeah,
including
this is insane. This makes the Trump thing look normal. The lawfare against Rudy is literally 10 times harsher than it is against Trump.
Agreed. It's once they got away with the Alex Jones things, they were going to do this to everybody.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's got to be corrected and remedied, or it's got to be reciprocated.
Well, when you say corrected or remedy, I call that vengeance. And you may use the law as your vengeance, but there's got to be retribution here. I mean, people have to go to jail.
Well, the way I put it is you have to restore confidence, and there has to be some consequence in order to restore consequence, in order to restore confidence.
Right.
And at the end, otherwise you do have to reciprocate. The only way to deter it is to do so. If you can't find the mechanism or means or method to hold them in account, and there's plenty of ways to hold them account. I mean, George Soros is individually responsible for more crimes and death over the past half decade than any individual in the world. Right next to him is Bill Gates. You're telling me you can't find any legal basis by which they should ever face
That's insane.
Yeah, and Americans won't believe it after what they did to Trump, after what they did to Trump supporters.
Right.
They found every pretext in the book to go after Trump.
But they weren't even in the book. They made them up.
Absolutely.
And the book this is outside of the book.
That's Alvin Bragg right there for New York.
As Julie Kelly pointed out, if there's no consequences, they're acting like there's no consequences. Alvin
I
Bragg
just want to
is
give
acting
another
like-
shout out to Maud Maron. MaudMaron.com was running against Alvin Bragg, the June 25th primary in Manhattan. She is an anti-woke candidate. She's a Democrat. She's normal. She's a Jewess. She's a mother. She's a lawyer. She is a person who lives downtown. Please, if you can donate any money to fight this Alvin Bragg, it's Maud, M-A-U-D, Maron, M-A-R-O-N. Surprisingly, a distant cousin of Mark Maron, no friend of the show. But nevertheless, she is the only normal person running against, and the only person right now running against Alvin Bragg in Manhattan.
For the primary. So
Well, that's the win. The primary is the election.
Like some people didn't realize how good an outcome it was, but look at what happened with Amy Cooper's case. I got it settled before Bragg got in. And I deliberately structured it to make sure it got settled before, and that Bragg would have no power. That's why it wasn't a diversion agreement, wasn't anything like that.
Robert, the guy got 87,000 votes in a city of 6 million people. I mean, the turnout to these things are so minuscule that I think that there has to be people like a Charlie or this Pressler literally have to go behind enemy lines to get turnout to stop anyone who is a Alvin Bragg type candidate.
Yep. Yeah, oh, no doubt. In New York, I mean, remember when New York was the foundation of, Robert Morgenthau and Law and Order was based on New York's DA's office. And now it's as Jonathan Turley, Professor Jonathan Turley pointed out, it's now a disgrace and an embarrassment to the rule of law around the world.
Well, we'll see what happens with that. I mean, you got Amy Coney Barrett that you pointed out as a disgrace to the Supreme Court. Yeah. They're going to tie this thing up with Trump, and they're going to bottle it up for as long as they possibly can.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
The New York, the appellate division will take as long as possible. Then
Absolutely.
The New York Court of Appeals will take as long as possible.
Absolutely.
And then the Supremes will do the same.
Yeah.
Unless Barrett feels some of the pressure. Unless Barrett hears that there's so much blowback from so many conservatives. Like, I'll give credit to Mike Davis. Yeah. He came out and just completely lambasted. I mean, he was integral in her appointment. Mike Davis.
Well, then he must feel guilty.
I think he was working. I mean, he was in a position where he didn't control who got nominated. He just helped process those nominations. But he's buddies with Gorsuch.
Who's going to leave that court first? Who's leaving that court first, in your humble opinion?
Well, I don't think Thomas will gamble on another Republican getting elected. Right. So I think Thomas leaves towards the end of this Trump's term.
Okay, why would I knew you were going to say that, but my answer was what I said on the show last week. Why wouldn't Thomas leave now instead of leaving at the last minute when Trump's about to leave?
Because Thomas wants to get in as many decisions as he can,
or at least midway. At least don't do the 1 year. The 1 year.
And Thomas even put it years ago. He said, that that the best revenge is going to be him on the court as long as possible. To what they,
I understand that, but if you've made up your mind to leave, should you leave as soon as the administration takes office or the last day?
It depends on what you think the prospects are for someone replacing you that will fit what you would like to see happen.
Okay,
and so that's where I think he'll assess that. If more Republicans had been elected in the Senate, he might have gone earlier.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good. I didn't think of that. That's a good point.
It's so close in the Senate right now that he's going to want to see what happens in the next election.
He's going to wait till the midterms, you're saying.
Yeah.
That makes
sense. Of course. That makes sense. Right.
That makes sense.
Right. Good point.
No, of course. Well, I hope Republicans have more gains in the midterms, or then it's going to be a really big problem.
I think
How is that going to happen? How is that going to happen?
I know. That's my point. So it's kind of like,
I know. No question. Now, from a health perspective, it would not surprise me at all if Sotomayor doesn't survive the next 4 years.
Because of diabetes and eating the foods that she eats and her interesting.
She also hates it there from what I understand. Right. Like she's complaining all the time. All right, some Rumble rants real quickly. Freddie65, Bass could have been a Democrat VP candidate. Scary and glad you made it, Mark.
Thank you.
Mr. Mike. Mark, what's up with the LA Deputy Mayor of Public Safety? Oh, God, FBI investigation. Yeah, I saw that. The Deputy Mayor was on suspension for a bomb threat. So he couldn't lead the damn city while she was in Africa.
Yeah, it's a mess. I mean, there's so many city councilmen. Forget about the deputy mayor. There's a bunch of deputy mayors. This particular guy who was in charge of bombings and the threats of bombings for some reason. I don't know. He was like the security deputy mayor.
So it was a how-to?
It was a how-to, and he phoned in his own bomb threat against some particular personal enemy that he had. The FBI got wind of it. The FBI has been so busy with LA city politics in the last 7 or 8 years that they should set up a satellite office, because they're down in West LA.
Well,
they should move it right into the city, closer to the mayor's office, because holy crap, they're still going for Garcetti. I'm still not done with Garcetti. I think he's going to go down.
Well, I mean, you know what the other hard part for the LA FBI is? How to keep a wraps on their own corruption in the process. Because, I mean, it goes back to remember that Johnny Depp movie made with Forrest Whitaker that Hollywood tried to bury for 4 years?
Yeah.
That was about the Ramparts division and Suge Knight and the notorious B.I.G. assassination and the other assassinations that took place within the rap world, including out here in Vegas. The problem is it implicated some people that they didn't want implicated. So they're obsessed with controlling these criminal cases so that the true culprits don't get caught.
I think it worked, Barnes. Didn't that film just kind of die out?
They have canceled a lot of political operatives of late. For most of it for building trade stuff, Robert. Most of it for bribery.
I mean, that's the old school. The developers, they're easy to pin.
Yeah.
The thing is that a lot of those places it's like Chinatown, the movie.
Yeah. It's Chinatown, Jake. Forget about it. You
dig in, you get a lot more dirt. And so, the FBI's job is to make sure it's just all Chinatown. A few people go down, but none of the.
Well, now it's going to be about the water, which is what it's about in Chinatown. I mean, this was about diversion of water. I recommend for the weekend the movie Chinatown, the brilliant script by the great Robert Towne, not to be confused with his drunk brother Roger Towne, who I had to sue in federal court for working as a front for the CIA on my script, The Recruit. Roger Towne is the black sheep brother of the genius Robert Towne, who they use as a front.
Yeah, I mean, another good movie on LA politics, if you're in the Chinatown mood, would be Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Or LA Confidential.
Oh. Yeah, LA Confidential is also excellent.
LA Confidential.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit basically tells the true story of why they shut down the red car in LA. I mean, LA had the best public transit system in the world, and LA deliberately destroyed it at the behest of car manufacturers.
That's true. That's
and
true.
Real estate developers.
Well, I mean, if you look at it now, you could look at the same thing we're going through with the electric cars today and see the same level of corruption probably behind the scenes with electric cars.
No doubt.
Right? I mean,
especially all these knockoff competitors of Musk.
Yeah.
Like almost all the electric cars other than Tesla have been unprofitable and undesirable.
But I mean, the legislation that these people have passed, that Newsom has passed in this one-party state, getting rid of gas-powered cars, those are on the books. I mean, the GM is not none of the automakers are happy about any of these things. They're going to have to go to the Supreme Court to get these things overturned because they're coming in 2030.
Yep.
Hey, Barnes, did you know that we have our own flavor of coffee?
Yeah. So do you don't have available the Dachau dark roast, I assume?
The Dachau dark roast? No, it's sold out. It's back ordered though. and Candace Owens has got some dibs into that company. I'm not sure how much percentage she owns of the company, but
is it with the Black Hebrew Israelites in New York? That kind of crew?
Well, Mel Gibson wants to get in on it now. He's apparently rambling on Joe Rogan about the phony Pope and the phony Catholic Church and
people forget he's part of that independent Catholic movement that doesn't agree with Vatican II.
Yeah. No, he's full on. He's full on Vatican I, and one of the top precepts of Vatican I is, you know who killed their Lord, and don't ever forget it. And it wasn't. I'll give you a hint. It wasn't the Romans. It wasn't the Romans.
His dad was not bashful at sharing.
His dad, Hootin' Tootin' Gibson, obviously one of the world's most famous Holocaust deniers. From Australia.
This is the worst coffee freaking commercial ever made.
And this will keep
everybody. You need to buy coffee just to make it up for this poor veteran that's brewing coffee and hearing this.
This guy probably fought the Nazis.
Talking about all the Jew haters and the Holocaust.
Yeah, I ain't getting that. That's Holocaust coffee. I ain't getting that shit. That's right, ground up little pieces of bone and shit in there and.
America's Untold Stories Supreme Breakfast Blend. It's American coffee, folks, by a veteran here, is specially made and concocted for us. And you can see why there's two different kinds of beans. One's is fresh, European, and nice. That'd be my side. And then you have the ancient, crusty Indonesian blend, and mix it together, and you have the show, and you have this coffee. And seriously, it is fantastic coffee. Have we sent you some, Barnes? We need to, if you haven't had it yet.
Yeah, happy to try it out.
That's pretty good.
What I love about this coffee is
a little bit of Amos Miller organicfarm.com milk.
You can put that milk in
to.
the coffee. You can put that milk in the coffee.
You could, but ironically, you don't even need to. This is the only coffee I can drink that I don't need any kind of cream or anything. It's just black. Wow. It's that rich. So, but put the milk in if you want to. It'd be even richer.
It's up to you.
It is some really, really good stuff, and does help us out. We get a little bit
also kosher for Passover. By the way, if you look at the,
I would say if it's that rich, it must be Jewish.
Well, it's kosher for Passover. By the way, there's a little logo on the bottom. That little K down there means it's kosher for Passover. Blessed by some rabbinical guy.
He was what's his name? Seinfeld was on. There was something when he was on with Norm Macdonald, and he goes, I have a unique Jewish joke that only Jews get. And
Seinfeld was him. Yeah, that's right. And
he told the joke. I didn't get it, but all the Jewish people in the audience did get it. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess there's something there.
Oh God, it was like the I'll have to find that clip and do it later because it was.
I don't know the joke, but Seinfeld, from what I've read, is a Jew.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And he's on with Norm, and Norm sat there and was like,
Norm, not a Jew. Norm Macdonald, not a Jew.
But
a friend of the Jews. He loved Gilbert. Seinfeld.
By the way, did you see the General Flynn movie, Robert?
Not yet. I heard it was good though.
Dude. It's first of all, it's great. But it has no director. There's no director listed, and at the very bottom of the credits, it says marketing director Amanda Milius. I think she directed this movie. Yeah, I mean, she's doing a great job. I know she's working on a John McAfee movie. For those that don't know, go out and watch Plot Against the President if you haven't. Oh, it's great.
It'll show you
but
who.
Watch the Flynn one. I was really surprised.
What was the title of the Flynn one? It was something the general. I'm trying to remember. It's also a good one. You can also watch for free right now. Is the one on John Eastman.
I want to see that. I definitely
Viva was like totally chill. Oh, hey, here's the president. Hey, everybody, how you doing, Mr. President? He was like totally relaxed. Like, I mean, most people would kind of be, oh, holy cow, President of the United States is in the room. A little bit intimidating, especially if you're around Trump. He's the most physically impressive person I've ever been around. He can own a room in 5 seconds.
In fairness, Robert, David's used to looking up at a lot of people, so it's a little more common. I mean, I'm not trying to.
He was actually up on the stage for that one.
He told me he grew a foot since the encounter. Yeah, I mean, he was so excited.
But yeah, I mean, he was totally normal, casual. Just here's President of the United States. But the Eastman documentary also very good.
Oh, all right, I'm going to see that. So we got L.A. Confidential, Chinatown, Flynn, and the Eastman documentary this weekend.
Yeah, I'll figure out what we're going to do on Saturday nights on our locals page, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. We always do a movie night like 9:00 Eastern. We open up a live chat. Everybody watches the movie wherever they can, and they can just chat and share insights. And it's a lot of fun.
Chinatown this week would be the.
You're right. That'd be the perfect one to do.
Perfect movie for right now. I mean, holy crap.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the what's his name? What's his name made the movie who had to flee?
Roman Polanski.
Yeah, Roman Polanski.
That's what happens when you get nosy. You want to see what happens when you get nosy?
Yep.
And he cuts his
nose. It's Chinatown. I mean, that's a phrase that unless you've seen the movie, nobody knows what it means.
Right.
Like, it's just Chinatown. Nothing.
Well, Jack, the Nicholson character, Giddies, had been a cop. He had been a cop in Chinatown, and it was so corrupt that he quits the force. The backstory on that is that
they never should have made the sequel. I mean, that was
that's absurd.
You couldn't make a sequel to Chinatown.
That was ridiculous. But yeah, that would be a good one for your locals.
Oh, John Huston. Remember, John Huston was in there. Great.
John Huston directed Annie, which I watched last week from 1982. The
Which is good.
musical version of the play was directed by John Huston. I couldn't
know.
believe it.
I mean, he was one of the all-time greats. That was
Dude,
an
I
old
mean, from
school guy.
acting to directing to drinking to, Angelica Houston, who comes upon Polanski with the little girl in the hot tub at Jack Nicholson's house, third base.
Right.
That's right. In Malibu.
And everybody felt bad for Polanski because of everything that had happened.
Well, I mean, when you see the documentary, which you have,
Yeah, I mean, that was rough.
You'll understand what that judge was like.
Really corrupt.
Merchon.
Well,
He was
it's
like
my
Merchon combined with the other judge.
Exactly. My argument, January 6th, it's like people are getting caught up in violent, non-violent. What the system was so corrupt.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, I've advocated for the constitutional rights of Roman Polanski. I don't like Roman Polanski. I don't like what he did. Don't like what he's accused of, any of it. I'm for maximum sentences for people accused of those charges. But I'm first and foremost a constitutionalist. And if you violate the Constitution and the way you go about it, you don't get rewarded by getting to punish somebody that you violated the Constitution to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, you can't charge a guy with murder after you frame him for murder.
Exactly.
You don't get. I mean, I'm generalizing, but
I
that's
care more
essentially
about
what
the
is.
Constitution being killed than any individual.
Well, let's charge
being
him with
killed.
second-degree homicide since we framed him for murder, Chief.
Yeah, exactly.
That,
I mean,
that's,
and every January 6 cases, it was contaminated from the get-go. The prosecutor didn't abide by violated their constitutional rights. The grand jury violated their constitutional rights.
will
the judge
he
violated their
give? Let me put you on the spot. Will he give a blanket pardon January 20th?
I think to all the nonviolent ones for sure. I think he may throw in.
Well, how do you split hairs over this thing?
I agree. I'm encouraging them. Don't split hairs.
Oh, okay. All right. Because they created felonies out of assault charges by being within 500 yards of an officer. If you talk to Jonathan Gross, who represents a bunch of them, they showed a photo where his client was 500 yards away from the cop. Charged him with felonious assault, Robert.
Oh, completely. I mean, it's all utter. You can't trust a corrupted process, and you have to always punish the corrupted process first. Otherwise, it will be used against the innocent next. That's a greater threat to our liberty than any individual criminal, is the deprivation of our Constitution by the government. And that's why my argument is keep it clean, keep it simple, pardon everybody, and throw in some high-profile names that the media won't be able to help to talk about. So, and throw in a couple of other...
You're talking about, let's face it, you're talking about Diddy. That's right. You're talking about Diddy.
Oh, I wouldn't include Diddy. But disclose. I would do day one. Disclose the Diddy list.
The Diddy list.
Disclose the Epstein list.
List.
Declassify the Kennedy files and all the other, and the King files and the Malcolm X files. Issue executive orders and start doing mass deportation of illegal criminals that have sexual violence or other violent history. Launch it right away with a big hoopla. And then throw in the pardons and commutations, including big.
Will they stop deporting after they get the criminals?
No, Trump's going to keep doing it a high profile. Simple reason.
Okay.
Will Trump deport 10 million people? Highly unlikely.
Right. That's what I'm getting at.
Goal? He wants those 10 million to fear it so that some leave on their own accord.
Mm-hmm.
And second, the biggest
others
thing
don't come in.
He wants everybody that's thinking about coming in, they're going to get hammered if they come in. That's how he successfully. He didn't do a bunch of deportations his first term, but illegal immigration went way down in his first term.
I think Obama deported more than he did.
He did. Obama deported more.
I would do some high-profile brutal case. Take some of those Venezuelan gangs and just dump them in the Venezuelan jungles. I don't care where you're from.
Or El Salvador. Put him in El Salvador. There's
kind of like Robert Kennedy when he was Attorney General did with Carlos Marcello, dumping him in the jungles of Guatemala.
Exactly. Kennedy show. I mean, I'll give you. People can be whatever they want about the Kennedys. Those guys had cojones. Look what he did to that general. Look what he did to that general. He goes, "Oh, okay. You're going to be uppity. You're going to say you're going to do your own thing."
You're talking about three-star General Edwin A. Walker.
Exactly. They said, Walker, we're going to send you to the nut house, just as a little thank you gift to trying to screw with us. Now. They had
him in a straitjacket. The nut house is, of course, in Springfield, Missouri, as people know out of Missouri. That is the federal penitentiary of mental nuts, criminally insane, and that's where they put General Walker.
By the way, to interrupt, circle back, I did find that joke, so we could test it really quickly with Mark.
Maybe Mark can figure it out because even
go ahead.
Seinfeld,
it's straightforward. It's just a one-liner. Two Gentile businessmen meet on the street. One of them says, how's business? The other one says, great.
I get it. Okay, I get it. There's no complaining. There's no complaining.
There's
no kvetching. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't get it. I was like,
yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I guess I am the Gentile.
You are. There's no kvetching.
And Norm didn't get it either. And
I'll give you my version of that. There's a couple of versions of that. Two guys are waiting to go into the ovens at Dachau. One goes, I can't believe this is happening to us. And the other one says, yeah, we're not going to get any food any longer either.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. That's dark. Time for Super Chat.
I mean, it depends where you want to go. I mean, I had an uncle, Sam Cohen, who stole, he was a furrier, but he committed murder. And he was so obsessed with his weight when he went to the electric chair and Sing Sing for his last meal, he stayed on Weight Watchers, Robert.
Oh, God. All right.
I'll be here all week in San Clemente. I'll be at the San Clemente Chuckles house over here on El Camino Real.
We'll always remember Woody Allen's phrase from one of his films: "Tragedy plus time equals comedy."
Comedy, yeah. Woody Allen.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Jack
go
White
ahead.
said, will you guys ever do an America's Untold Stories about John Money and David Reimer? That's a story that needs more coverage. I don't know who they are.
Heard of them. They're on the little.
They're still untold.
They're untold for a reason, apparently. I don't know who they are. We're trying to get more high-profile stories.
Yeah. Happy Friday, guys. Hey, Pamela. Mark, glad you're okay.
Okay. We don't know if I'm okay. I'm here. Let me put it that way. I'm on the meal plan.
All right. Like the movie Escape from L.A., Mark riding the wave with Peter Fonda till the end.
Didn't he just pass away, Peter Fonda? Didn't he? Like 2 years ago.
A year or two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Green, answer, will NFL try to derail the Detroit Lions? Glad Mark made it out safe.
I'm suspecting you're seeing so many high-profile people try to play nice with Trump for the first time.
Yeah.
That I think the NFL, like if you wanted to short bet against the Chiefs winning again, I would recommend that, because I think they're going to the thing with an entertainment product, with a sports product, is you might want to manipulate a narrative for a particular time frame, but you have to be careful not to lose your whole audience if they realize it's being manipulated. And I think combined with a lot of the criticism that came about last year, with the fact that Trump won, I think the NFL won't manipulate for that same Chiefs narrative this year, or anti-Lions narrative this year. I don't know which narrative they're going to push, though, yet.
I don't think they need to, Barnes, because right now, I mean, Americana, patriotism's back. NFL kind of ties in with that anyway, and they're going to get a ton
if they would just play
support anyway. Just play it straight.
Yeah, just play it straight. And I think there's a decent chance they do. I think there's a decent chance they do play it straight. I'd say about 75. You can never trust Roger Goodell. He's one of the most corrupt sports people in the world. But it wouldn't surprise me, especially when they see Zuckerberg fold like he did. I mean, that's basically Zuckerberg saying, please don't do anything to him.
I'll tell you something corrupt. I'm trying to get tickets to see the Dodgers in Japan, and nobody, and I've spoken to the Dodgers front office. They referred me to the Cubs. The Cubs referred me to Major League Baseball. No one will give up the information as to when and how these tickets go on sale. I'm going to have to hire a private eye just to get involved in this ticket purchase thing. This is really dark, Robert. I may need the 1776 Law Center to just get to the bottom of this Japanese Tokyo Dome Cub Dodger opening 2 games in Japan this March.
Maybe Barnes knows a guy.
Best food in the world is in Tokyo.
If I could get tickets to the game, I'm going. I mean, but I got to get the game tickets.
Amazing. Kobe
Scalping is like the death penalty in Japan, from what I read. Scalping sports tickets like the death penalty.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, I helped prevent. I made sure the Dodgers didn't get stuck with Cohen as their GM years ago. I was hired by some high-end.
Steve Cohen from New York.
The guy who owns the Mets was originally trying to buy the Dodgers.
Yeah, I wonder who drove a stake into it, because all of a sudden that deal was done and then it was undone.
Yep. I was part of killing it. They'd hired me.
Thank you. We ended up with Frank McCord instead. So thank you for that.
Yes. It was some guys with some seats right behind the home base were the ones that hired. It was mostly I was like Cohen's basically where the show Billions is based on. That's like he's under criminal investigation from 6 different angles, and I showed how he was.
Yeah,
and because he had misled AMLB about that, they nixed it. He backed off.
Well, they leaked that out and cut his legs off. That he went pretty quick once that was leaked. You're saying that Vivo leaked that, or you did?
Oh no, it was someone had hired me, and I produced the report, and what they did with it was up to them. You know?
Oh, so you're saying you're hands off. You didn't leak the report at all.
Oh, I didn't leak the report. No.
If anybody knows how any Cub fans out there, apparently the Cubs are the home team. So the Dodgers are saying the Cubs are responsible for the ticket sales. Is there any Chicago Cub fans out there? Just DM me or email me how I get these goddamn tickets to the Dodgers Cubs game.
All right, probably in the same time zone as Tokyo as Australia. From Australia, appears Lord Phillips, loving your work, fellas. Cheers from Oz with $50 Australian, which is very, very kind. Thank you. Jenny's getting inky with it with $5. How is Santa Clarita faring? My fave craft store is there.
Oh, that's all the way up. That's untouched.
They're okay right now.
Yeah, that's pretty far north.
Okay, cool. Let's see. Jack White question: has anyone ever adopted James Ellroy's books and a book series that needs an adaptation? Is the Elric saga?
There are some Elroy adapted books into movies. I can't think of them offhand, but I know there's a couple.
Only Confidential was one.
Yeah, that's an Elroy, but there's a couple of smaller ones that were adapted.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the one about the strangler, the lady, or whatever, or what's that famous case?
The Black Dahlia. The Black Dahlia.
Yeah, the Black Dahlia. He did I think there's 2 or 3 Black Dahlias.
Yeah.
And remember, he did a TV series for a while. With his crazy voice and his weird, like, over the top.
Well, it could have been like Alfred Hitchcock, if you played your cards right.
Is he John Waters of the West? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he
no. I think his mother was murdered when he was a teenager.
No, I know that, but I just meant odd character.
Oh yeah,
profile.
He's definitely odd. Yeah.
Well, Waters, he was completely normal. I mean, every time I met John Waters, he was a completely normal guy.
You know who was the most normal? Alice Cooper.
I've had dinner with Alice Cooper. Absolutely.
And Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson, the same deal.
I had dinner with Alice Cooper at his house in Maui. I mean, all he cares about is Jesus and golf.
Yeah, he went to I think his dad or he
in
went
that
to
order.
University. Yeah, but it was the same with Marilyn Manson. I was hanging out at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and Marilyn Manson was behind me. I didn't know it was him. I was like, he sounds like a normal businessman, and I was like, holy crap, that's Marilyn Manson.
Yeah,
now, the guy who is as kind of crazy and kind of dumb as he appears is Ozzy Osbourne. His wife totally runs him, and he's kind of like he's done whatever he's done to his brain. He's a little on the slower side.
Okay, well, I have a little insight into that guy too. At one point, I think he told me he was on 37 different drugs, prescription drugs, not party drugs, just prescription or 26 or something that he was taking with prescription. It took him an hour to take his medication in the morning.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Well, he's got Parkinson's or something going on.
He had Parkinson's, and he was taking a lot of stuff for that too.
Yeah. Grow my own in Massachusetts. Do you think Karen Reed's civil rights were violated?
Who is Karen Reed?
Is she the one
in Boston? Yeah, the Boston area that she's going to be retried for supposedly backing over her fiance.
That case. Yeah, I didn't follow.
Were they mostly for acquittals, or they're actually going to retry that case? That case
they're supposed to. They're talking about retrying it, but I know that they hung. And there's a question because the jury supposedly felt that it was not guilty on the top charge, but they didn't let them vote on that charge, or the instructions weren't clear. So then they hung the whole thing.
Speaking of hung the whole thing, I think the Menendez brothers are getting out of jail. Hochman is looking at the entire case from beginning to end, and I think that they may be out by Easter.
Wow.
I think they served about 30. They served
their time, though. I don't feel that awful about that one.
Oh, no.
Well, they're filing the fact that they're orphans is the reason they want to get out. I mean, I don't think that's correct. That's not fair. They're orphans.
Yeah. All right, David March, our friend from Canada, who we've seen at the meetups. Have you heard the one about the Jew was reading the protocols of the elders of Zion? He liked to know how powerful he was.
That's not even a joke per se, but it's still funny. I mean, the Mahmoud Abbas in the Palestinian Authority has a PhD in the protocols of the elders of Zion that he got at Palestine University, wherever the hell that is. So you make a joke about it, but it goes all the way back to French intelligence and Russian intelligence in the 1800s.
Did you, Eric? Did you see the one from Beavis that just came in?
Yeah, I did. I'm getting to it.
Gotcha.
Almost there, but yeah, because Beavis came in hot again. Jack White, are you guys familiar with the theory about biology playing no factor in how men and women behave in their interests, which is BS? Seriously, obviously, John Money is the one who that theory originates from. So I guess that's John Money.
Okay, that's John Money. Way to go, John Money.
Thank you very much. And yeah, Beavis came in hot with $100 again. Speaking of Japan, did any of you see Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck? I love that movie. Your thoughts?
I think what's his name was in that, the black comic, if I remember correctly. But yeah, not a good baseball movie. There are better baseball movies. I'm not a big Tom Selleck fan. I'm not a big fan of that movie. I hope that doesn't hurt your feelings. Beavis Wallace, of course, the grandson of Malcolm Wallace, who was a guy that LBJ freed from prison and later had fingerprints on the boxes up in the 6th floor school book depository. But yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that movie, but I'll tell you something else. The structure of it's pretty good, but Pete Rose, he used to, when they ran out of cocaine at his poker parties, would call up one of these many different baseball merchandise dealers, and he would sell that guy the bat that he got the 3,000th hit with for the 50th time, Robert, to get money to buy more cocaine and keep the poker party going. That's who Pete Rose was. And I think this is a Pete Rose type character depicted in here.
My favorite Selleck stuff was that main sheriff character he played. Like when they went straight to
Robert B. Parker, Jesse Stone series.
Yeah,
great books. And no, he was fantastic in that role. Absolutely. He was also decent in and out with Kevin Kline.
Oh, and I grew up on him on Hawaii, on him being the Hawaiian detective. So,
did you see that Alec Baldwin is suing the prosecutor, Eric?
Yes, that was a news story for today.
He's going after the prosecutor, Robert.
Well, the judge ruled, and literally in the ruling gave him that path. I think she said
judge is
some
so
comment.
Corrupt. This judge has been owned by the Baldwin people. I mean, wow, you're right, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, she said, I don't know if you saw that ruling, Bars, but she said something like, this is obviously such and such corruption, and she cannot be protected.
I don't dispute that it was corruption. It's just they don't normally care about that corruption until it involves somebody they want to politically protect.
There's also there are some very real questions about that last minute evidence that showed up and how it showed up. I could tell you that offline, but I can't get into that now.
I'll give credit to his crew. I mean, that's
what I did. I said the same thing. Go get him. I think Trump should take a page out of the Alec Baldwin playbook. I mean, you went after me. Now I'm going after you. I mean, Trump should sit down with Alec Baldwin and come up with a strategy.
I'm sure that'll go well, especially if Baldwin trying to impersonate him, right?
He could get closer,
they could talk to each other.
Source, yeah.
Jack White and David Reimer is the child John Money used as a guinea pig to prove his theory is true. And there's a book about it, about nature.
Jack, you
really are very into this.
Jack, it's never going to happen, bro.
Here we go. And now there's old interview clips of David Reimer talking about it.
You got to get a day job, bro.
This is good. We're still collecting. Thank you, Jack. We'll just
You know what, Jack? Well, give me some more thoughts for $5.
Alex Savidu coming in Canadian 50 though. Great to see Hundley, Grobert, and Marks together for the first time in 2025. Happy New Year's to y'all. Yeah, and by the way, I don't know if a lot of people realize this.
The three of us. The three of us. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Freeform Friday literally was created with Barnes.
That's right.
It was you, me, and Barnes. It was like, Barnes is going to come here, and we spun this show out of it.
Yeah, I remember discussing it. And it give you a sense of how, on the spectrum or clueless I'm on. And it was doing my birthday in Vegas, and Mark comes in. I order a bottle of expensive wine, and I forgot. Like Mark's like, I don't drink. And I'm like, aren't I the asshole?
No, that's ridiculous. What was the asshole was me trying to pay your bill, and it was like it was so many zeros to it. The guy said, "I'm sorry, your card didn't go through." I'm going, "No shit, Sherlock."
It was a nice bottle of wine. It was a good Lafitte.
Nice bottle of wine. It came with a group of pirates that brought it to the table. I mean, Jean Lafitte himself brought it over, for Christ's sake.
Exactly.
Okay. Oh, Beavis Wallace, grandson of Mac Wallace, has a bone to pick with you.
Okay.
From McAllen, Texas. Barnes, do not believe Mark's details about my genealogy. LOL. I'm a poor podiatrist in South Texas.
I
God
knew he
bless
was
you,
from
friend.
Texas, though. Dude, I was right about part of that, Wallace.
No,
Come
but-
on.
Yeah, you're supposed to see him about your bunion. Remember?
Oh,
You know,
he's the bunion remover. That's right. That Wallace. No
Yeah,
relation.
I never heard of Beavis until Beavis and Butthead. That was the first time I'd heard a word Beavis, and that's the great Mike. But buddies with Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I had a friend with them. The three of them together was Mike Judge, Alex Jones, and my friend, with some what we used to call tributes to Elvis on the table in a restaurant in Santa Monica. So those guys know how to party.
Oh, yeah.
I got one for you, Mark. Did Kiki Friedman ever hang out with Alex Jones or?
No, not kinky. I don't know. Well, I take that back. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Jones had out with everybody, And
That's what I said.
And if you were from Texas, I assume that.
And if you came into Austin City Night or any music,
yeah.
like he was hanging out with Willie Nelson all the time.
Yeah, he loved Willie. Kinky and Willie.
Yeah,
were pretty
he and Willie
close,
get along great. There's a bunch of music guys. Like, I mean, a lot of some of the X-Files ideas came from Jones.
Willie was close to Jimmy Carter. He did a lot of benefits of Jimmy Carter.
Yep, did Farm Aid and the rest, and I mean, Carter was, a mediocre president. Was he as bad as Obama? No. Was he he wasn't as effective as Clinton?
Well, actually, that was funny. Trump did a truth afterwards saying, "Congratulations, you made it, and you're number 3." These two guys were worse with Obama and Biden.
Well, the strangest case had to be Abby Hoffman and Amy Carter suing the CIA at the University of Massachusetts to stop them from recruiting on campus, and they won the case. Talk about strange president daughters for 20. That was a weird case.
I mean, the one thing I think Carter tried to do that was correct was trying to, though it was derivative of the church hearings, was to try to clean up the CIA. And they paid him back with the hostages. But part of that was because he went into bed with the Arabist wing of the intelligence apparatus.
Boy, no friend of the Jews, Jimmy Carter. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, not only that. I mean, the reason why Khomeini got into trouble is because Carter helped facilitate it. I mean, he was convinced that the Ayatollah was just a democratic reformist.
Yeah, with a funny outfit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like some of the dumbest logic. I mean, you sit there and you're like, how can anybody be this dumb? But unfortunately, he kind of was.
He was stubborn. Biden wrote a letter, and he was stubborn about foreign policy and not receiving advice. He didn't take advice well. Yeah,
he's mathematically smart, but he's not conceptually smart. Like he reminds me of Ben Shapiro. Like he can derivatively give you an argument, but see the broad, bigger picture in a lot of.
You're saying Jimmy Carter is Ben Shapiro with a yarmulke.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
I just want to get that.
I
want to get that image
without
the way, Jimmy Carter with the yarmulke. Exactly, and it's like they come across as smart, but then you realize they have these huge blind gaps.
Yeah.
Like when over the later years, he tried to convince everybody Hamas really wants peace, and it's like, what world are you living in? I mean, where have you been? He's like, but I've talked to them. Yeah, okay. I mean, they're going to sit down there and tell you, Jimmy, no, we want to just kill all the Jews until eternity's over. It was just naive.
Well, they did send him an anonymous letter saying that, but they didn't sign it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was just like wowzers.
Wow.
And then you see the Carter Center. I mean, the people that run the Carter Center. So
where is it? In Macon or Atlanta?
They did a
must
photo.
Be in Atlanta.
They did a photo of the funeral of all the presidents, and they managed to take the angle that cut Trump out of it.
Oh my God! Oh
it's like
my God!
Bad form. I was like, not only that, you're at the Carter Center. You're going to need support from the incoming administration to have any role in anything, and you're insulting the incoming president by excluding him from his participating in Carter's funeral. Ridiculous.
Wow. Some Rumble rants really quickly. Fleece Speech says, "Glad you're safe, Mark. Hope your library is too. Do you recall the hilarious National Lampoon Anita Bryant wrong again orange juice ad?"
The print ad, there's a print ad we did in the magazine.
What was that terrible one you guys did for Ted Kennedy?
Oh yeah, if Ted Kennedy had driven a Volkswagen, he'd be president today.
Yeah, you lost that lawsuit too, didn't you?
We lost that lawsuit. The cover was an upside down Volkswagen floating a Chappaquiddick. I mean, it's a great idea.
I mean, that was back when, you know, good edgy humor was right there. You know, it's hard to find.
The Germans are not known for their sense of humor, Robert. They didn't take it. They didn't take it in the same spirit that the Jewish editors created it with. You know.
Yeah, well, that's why I still love Norm Macdonald's routine on that. The
David Letterman. Yeah,
it's the Germans because they go to war with the whole world and they do it twice.
And they almost won.
Yeah, it was German. You can't have a country. You keep trying to run the whole world. So but it's a great little routine the way, and he sets it up perfectly. Like he waits for the pause, and he was old school.
When he goes at that guy, he goes rah, guy.
Yep, exactly.
Let me see. Finboy Slick said, "I would like to nominate David Freiheit as governor of the 51st state. He has even better hair than the outgoing guy."
Yeah, make Canada a colony and appoint governor Viva Frei.
What happens to what do you do with the French with the QLF up there in Quebec? What do you do with those people?
French, so we can incorporate them in,
Okay.
and they can all join together in prosecuting that granddaughter of Nazis who's running for the new.
I think I heard she fled back to Nazi Germany. She immediately fled back to the fatherland.
I think Pierre will be an improvement, but not. He comes across more like a Tory than he comes across like a Trump.
Pierre Poilievre,
Canadian leader.
The guy in waiting, yeah,
Poilievre, the guy with the apple.
What's going to happen with Macron's opposition? Is she going to go to jail in France, Robert?
Who, Candace Owens?
Well played.
No, you know what I'm talking about. What's her face over there? The extreme right wing.
Oh, Marine Le Pen.
Le Pen, sure.
Yeah,
they're trying to jail her right now.
Well, all of Europe has collapsed. I mean, Macron really doesn't have a government. He's barely functioning in France. The UK has already collapsed again in its political governance because of its disastrous handling of these immigration-related.
What about Georgescu, the Trump of Romania? What's going to happen with him?
Would you see there was a guy bragging today, the guy who threatened Elon, bragged about how they took out
Keir Starmer.
Yeah, how they took out the Romanian leader at the request of the Europe, and that they would do the same if the AfD wins in Germany.
Wow.
And it's like this idiot's out there bragging on French television of how they're manipulating and quashing elections in Europe.
Will Khan get out of jail in Pakistan?
That will be interesting. See, that's where to watch Trump. You know, if Trump maneuvers away for him to get released, that's going to change a lot of central because he wanted to work with Trump. Yeah. And that is a critical if he can get Khan out and get control over Pakistan, that is essential to a whole bunch of Middle Eastern and Central European politics.
Right.
And I hope I think he's fully aware of it.
Yep.
And I think he'll find a way to get that done. I mean, because he could just tell the Pakistanis no more money unless he's out.
Oh, he's got to be out.
He's got to be out. They're all, even though Trump is the ultimate rationalist and the ultimate peace guy, the rest of the world thinks he's half crazy and will do whatever. And he wants to maintain that reputation.
The madman strategy, like Kissinger and Nixon.
Correct. It gets them to get things done that other people can't get done. Mm-hmm. And I think he can get that done. I think he'll get I think he wants his legacy, aside from major reform of our legal and regulatory structure here as to health and medicine and a bunch of other stuff. I think the other he wants his legacies. He wants to do a bunch of peace deals. I mean, I think he doesn't want to go to war with China. I think he wants to get a deal that permanently locks in North Korea in a way that reduces it as a risk going forward.
Don't forget reinstituting the Abraham Accords.
He wants to expand the Abraham Accords in the Middle East. He wants to get a Middle East peace. And look at how well it's worked. Watch. Hamas will release a bunch of hostages before January 20th. Right. Because they really don't want to be sideways with Trump because
they're just going to say they were on Ozempic as to why they're so thin. I mean, but that's not going to work. That's not going to work, Robert. The Jews are hipper than that.
Okay, Rumble Rant, Ithaca 37 Cato. Shouldn't brave Sir Joe Bribin join the firefighters around LA? Maybe he could wander around and distract the fire.
Let me tell you something. That press conference was so weird. Each guy came up from the different departments, stood about 15 feet in front of him, and there was a video screen in the middle. And they said, Good afternoon, Mr. President. Here is the situation as far as I could see. And they would tell their little 5-minute story. And then they go, and now I'd like to turn it over to the head of blah, blah. And he just stood there. And at the end, he finally said, today's a great day. I have a new great grandchild. And then he left. I thought, this is perfect. It was the ultimate Joe Biden photo op press conference. He didn't understand a word they were saying. He didn't know where he was. And all he cared about was his great grandchild.
All right. Ithaca 37 Cato again. Hell, I donate to have a corpse of Oliver Cromwell to run against Alvin. Who, me be honest, brag? And
well, you could support Maud Maron because she is running against Alvin Bragg. And hopefully, if somebody could get Musk this information, I think it might be helpful because he could write her a goddamn check. She's the only one running against Alvin Bragg. She used to be a public defender. She knows how to do this. She is not anti-woke. She has taken on the school board in New York. She's a member of the Board of Education, and they have made her public enemy number one. So Maud Maron is, if anybody knows this guy, Elon Musk, get him the information.
Please do. And Jack White still on the case here.
Oh, Jack White's back. Oh, he's doubled the money. This is great. Come on, White. What do you got?
The reasons I mentioned that story about money and Reimer is because that theory is still being taught in universities to this day and is one of the things fueling the woke fire. Okay. Also, and spoiler, David Reimer and his brother Brian took themselves out 20 years ago because John Money dropped both of them as kids for full context.
This gets thicker every day. The story is getting crazier and crazier, White. When Jack White was in the White Stripes, the band with his sister, he never mentioned any of this when he was in the White Stripes.
Well, hey, he's busy in that 2-piece band.
Yeah.
He had a lot to do. He had to play
a lot to do.
Multi-instrumentalist. He didn't have time to focus on these other things.
Now he does. Now the band's broken up, and he can focus on this.
All right.
How about the people who ran into the ocean to save themselves in Malibu, Bob? They want people who literally had to go out to sea to save themselves from getting burnt up.
And the thing is, it's not easy to do because the way Malibu houses are designed, it's not like you have boat docks. The Pacific coast is not useful for that. Right. So you quite literally have to go out in the physical freezing cold waters. The waters are cold there. That's why it's not an easy escape route for anybody.
They used to hide these public walkways to get to the beach in Malibu. They were quite devious, and the courts continued to overturn their insanity of how they hid these things. But we used to know where every one of those used to be in Malibu to get to the beach, and they would come up with incredible signs: dogs loose, don't go down this trail, bark, poison ivy, anything to stop you from getting to that beach.
Exactly. Remember when they were busing people to other beaches, just so they wouldn't go to the beaches in Malibu?
Yeah, here was what's his name, the transportation secretary, saying that Robert Moses in New York built the causeways so low to stop the minorities from getting through in the public buses to Jones Beach.
But what do you think? There was a good movie that Ed Norton made. In fact, wasn't Alec Baldwin? Didn't Alec Baldwin play that famous?
I never saw it, but Oliver Stone was supposed to do a miniseries for HBO, a movie for HBO about Robert Moses, and he was quite bitter that they never. It was a battle over money, but he was quite bitter that they didn't greenlight his Robert Moses movie.
Interesting.
But I never saw the other one, but I know about it.
Yeah, it was well done. It was like a detective story within a story. But it was intended to show a little bit about the nature of how much Moses really ran the city for a period of time, how he leveraged his unelected position into extraordinary power.
He's the reason the Dodgers and the Giants left Brooklyn and moved to the West Coast because he wouldn't build them stadiums. That was the whole reason. He told them to go screw themselves. Not a fan of the game, and both of them left. They couldn't get the money to build their stadiums. And then 1964, he builds and opens up Shea Stadium in Queens, which is ironically where the Dodgers wanted a stadium to begin with.
All right. Jack White. God, Jack White is persistent.
Jack White on a roll, brother. Wait a minute. He's now claiming he's not Jack White.
Oh,
That's how.
man.
Oh my God! I use the screen name because it's one of the Joker's. Now you're blowing your own cover, White.
Yeah, no kidding.
Holy crap! Holy crap! I hope Jack White enjoyed Joker 2, the musical, one of the great sequels in the history of movie making.
Did you watch it?
It's unwatchable. Apparently unwatchable. In fact, it's so unwatchable that they didn't have screenings because they were afraid that the critics would find out that the movie was a musical. So the word of mouth killed it possibly faster than any big movie in American history. It was killed within 48 hours. People ran out of the theater yelling, "It's Soylent Green," but they were yelling, "It's a musical," instead of it's people. They're eating people.
This whole John Money thing is catching on here. Now, Mark and Robert, this will catch your interest. Dr. John Money created modern gender theory while at Johns Hopkins University, possibly for the CIA.
Right. Okay, that's good. I'll look into this.
Okay, well, we were just saying we never heard of these people. So.
You have to have heard of every single thing these people have ever come up with. You know,
you have to, not me.
Yeah, no, me. If I haven't heard of it, then I'm just dead meat.
All right, but you know what we have heard of, Mark?
What?
Locals.
Oh, that's right, locals. All right.
And I think we should go head over to Locals for the after party.
Okay.
Because there are some cool folks there. And you know what? There's a link right in the description. You can become a Locals member for free. Costs you nothing. Now, if you want to support us, we absolutely welcome that. That would get you other things like the Lee Harvey Oswald, the Oswald audio drama. We're putting different PDF files. We find some rare books that cost literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's PDFs of those books up there. Hard to get books, things like that. I do an exclusive show every Saturday. It's kind of a hangout on Locals, and it's really a pretty good deal all the way around. But you can always be a member for free and probably get about 85% of everything we put out for free, including our shows without commercials. So if you hate the commercials,
I'd like to recommend Robert's Locals too. While we're talking about Locals, which has 100%. Hush Hush series, which will give you the history of United States in a few episodes.
Yeah, and the Liberty, he did a nice Liberty piece, which he was kind enough to let me borrow. You did something on Timothy McVeigh, which it is kind of interesting considering the bombing situation we just had. People are questioning some of the parallels, but absolutely vivabarneslaw.locals.com. He normally has it in his timeline, but he has the 1776 Law Center right now. But definitely check that out. And meanwhile, I hope that you guys consider following us over there. Again, there is a link to Locals to this exact episode in the description right underneath what we said we're talking about in the show. So we're going to head over there.
Okay.
See you momentarily.
Blue Gatorade, Robert. Cures it.